Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 90 of Cutscene Convos. We've got an absolutely stacked episode this week. We'll be talking about Carnage. We'll be talking about the Gen V finale. We'll be talking about the penultimate episode of Loki. We'll be talking about Invincible coming back into our lives. We've got a crazy Nerd News network now that the strikes are over. Woot woot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we've got our content championship, which is Netflix's Punisher versus the MCU's Winter Soldier. But before that good stuff, Horizontal, how has your week been?
Oh, what a week. I haven't really got much. I don't feel like I've got anything done this week because, fortunately, my grandma has gone downhill a bit and has ended up in hospital ill. So there's been a lot of running around, sorting out her, looking at like my mum, dealing with her, and having to help out with different things. So yeah, kind of been a weird up and down week. She seems to be doing better though now, which is good.
That is what we love to hear.
Especially for a 91-year-old. She's doing
Oh,
doing well. So
they don't go down easy once they've got to
no,
91.
she's she ain't giving up. So yeah, bit of an up and down week, kind of thrown things. But have got work stuff on the horizon, which is good. Good news. Good way to end the end of the year. Getting some new projects coming along, which should hopefully keep me busy and have
Awesome.
some money coming in, which ready for buying Christmas presents.
What you get me for Christmas? Sorry.
um, I think the viewers should get us a sub button, a
They
join
should.
member button.
Yeah, they absolutely should, and that is very, very achievable by the end of the year.
Mm. I'll get you a one-on-one sit down with Kevin Feige.
That's a big claim. Can't,
I'm not
can't.
claiming it's the real Kevin.
You should go find a guy called Kevin Feige.
Just go on Cameo and get like
A
some
Kevin Feige
lookalike.
lookalike.
Yeah.
Yeah, there will be one.
Yeah. But yeah, bit of a weird week. Highs and
Yeah,
lows. How's your week been?
it's a really good question. How has my week been? It has been one of the longest, most draining weeks ever,
Oh shit.
but it feels like it's gone by very quickly at the same time.
Mm.
One of them weeks where I got into work this morning, I was like, "How is it not Friday yet?" And I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, "Holy shit, it's Thursday already."
Mm. Yeah, I
um,
lost all track of days this week.
yeah, it was a weird one this week. But overall, I'm doing well. Got some bits to sort vis-a-vis the house. Um, all of my family are going on various holidays, not this weekend, next weekend. So it'll just be me and Jenna at home looking after the dog. So we've both booked a bit of time off to spend together, which
Okay.
should be quite nice. But other than that, we are all chilling. Um, should we get into it?
I think we should. We've got a busy week.
We do. This week is the third of our 4 Spider-Man 2 character profiles.
Mm.
This week's is on Carnage. So let's get right into it.
Let's.
Carnage first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 345 in January of 1991. Carnage is the offspring of the Venom symbiote,
Mm-hmm.
and he was created while rescuing Eddie Brock from prison. The symbiote left behind an offspring in Eddie's cell, which he shared with sociopathic serial killer Cletus Cassidy, whom the offspring symbiote bound with via a wound in his hand. Once they bonded together, they dubbed themselves Carnage, and they became a very deadly and recurring enemy for both Spider Man and Venom, as well as a larger threat to the entire Marvel universe.
Mm.
Once he had escaped prison with the assistance of his new powers, Cassidy went on a huge killing spree with his newfound powers, taking off or picking up where he left off, rather. leaving the message "Carnage rules" painted on all of the walls in blood. Um, After months of chasing and hunting him, he finally was found by Spider Man. But Spider Man lost and was beaten very badly. But during this encounter, he discovered that Carnage was also a symbiote and enlisted the help of Venom to try and stop his murderous offspring.
Okay.
Um, After many more years and many encounters in different ways, um, Carnage was presumed dead. The symbiote had been split from Cletus and was presumed dead. However, it would later turn out that because the way the symbiote bonded with his blood and not just his body, his physiology had been changed to the point where he could recreate the symbiote from his
Oh,
own blood if the conditions were correct,
oh shit.
allowing him to regrow Carnage because Carnage was one with him. The apparent destruction and rebirth from Cletus' DNA and or blood is quite a common theme with Carnage.
Mm.
A lot of the time he is presumed dead only for a little bit of magic, a little bit of science or something to be able to
Mm-hmm.
extract it from Cletus. Um, Carnage is quite different to Venom, however. Where Venom is seen as quite dominant and controlling of the host he inhabits, Carnage is more submissive and loyal towards its host. Granted, this is seen mostly with Cassidy,
Mm.
and it doesn't mean that they are perfectly one and the same. As we discussed
Mm-hmm.
with Anti Venom being mindless,
Mm.
Cassidy and Carnage have been known to disagree in the rare circumstances where they don't agree on how to proceed. They will butt heads very
Mm.
rarely, but as a general rule, they're essentially in a weird kind of love affair with each other in which their twisted minds are so in awe of one another. They kind of
Yeah.
are very happy. And they get, as stupid as it sounds, horrific separation anxiety from one another. And they both kind of go a little bit even more insane and dangerous when they are forced to separate from one another,
Oh
um,
shit.
as it leaves them desperate to find each other again. Carnage is, I would probably say, just as famous as Venom at this point. Because I
Yeah.
feel like in the mid 90s, Venom kind of got changed slightly from an out and out villain
Mm.
to an anti hero,
Yeah.
because they realized Venom's entire thing was just he hates Spider Man, and that kind of runs out of storytelling ability after a while.
Yeah.
And in making him more three-dimensional, they realized he worked better as an anti-hero. So they gave us Carnage, and they were like, okay, Carnage is a bad symbiote anyway that just wants to murder everything,
Mm-hmm.
and his host is going to be psycho serial killer, and they're going to become one and the same. And they're just, and at that point, we've established Cletus Cassidy is a psycho serial killer before he's got the powers. You
Yep.
don't need to explain more than that. He's just this guy who's now got, who was already
A
scary and
psycho.
dangerous, who
Yeah.
now has the ability to do a lot more scary stuff.
Yep.
Carnage has been used for a lot of big events over the years. And in fact, they've just finished one
Oh.
where Miles had to fight him alongside a kind of supervillain task force
Mm.
because Carnage had been able to morph into a technological.
Oh. Technical difficulties. We lost Connor. Well, if you're watching this as the full episode, you'll probably see this, but this might get cut. Oh,
Statues.
he's back.
We good?
Yep. It lost you when you said Carnage had become something.
Oh, he'd become a technologically abled symbiote that
Okay.
had found a way to take over some of Iron Man's old armors.
Oh, so like a weird
Yeah.
symbiote Ultron.
Yeah, kind of. And he was like using them armors to like kidnap people and turn them into his little psycho minion people. And that
Go on.
is Carnage. He's probably one of my favorite villains because I feel like he can be used while he works obviously extremely well as a Spider-Man villain because
Mm.
of his psychotic and murderous nature. He can work as a villain for almost anyone, which
Yeah.
means he gets a lot of use in a lot of good places. Now, Gen V finale.
Yes,
My God in Himmel, you got what you wanted, Hori.
I did.
You said in like the second episode what happens when she's left in a massive field full of blood and she's just got
Yeah.
like all of this opportunity.
She doesn't need to cut herself. She's got all this ammunition essentially.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I got what I thought would happen if she was just like dropped in a war zone. And we got probably one of the cooler scenes of all the fighting when she just fucking creates a flurry of blood daggers
Yeah.
and
That was
just
brutal.
launches them at the guy.
Yeah. So we ended Gen V last week with
Yes.
Kate forcing the Dean to kill herself
Yeah.
while everyone else stood by helplessly because Kate either stopped them from being able to help or they just physically couldn't help.
Yeah.
And we picked straight up from that. It was just everyone still kind of looking disbelief at like,
Yeah.
okay, what the fuck do we do now? Um, it starts with what I thought was a really cool scene of like everyone. Obviously, they've just seen someone like die.
Mm.
It's been a stressful as fuck week for everyone, so their
Mm.
minds are racing at a million miles an hour. And I like the way we kind of fade into the scene with Kate like
Hearing
being
everyone.
overwhelmed by
Yeah.
everyone's thoughts. And like it's one of them things where like we've liked Kate for a lot of this series. And I think we've given her probably more chances than she deserves because we're like, there's definitely a bit of good in there. But
Yeah.
even them few scenes where like you see her powers at full display of like how much she gets bombarded, that's enough to drive anyone crazy.
Yeah. But like I feel like we ended last week where we're like, we can kind of understand how Kate got to this point.
Yeah,
And she's not necessarily like we were with the finish. She's not necessarily a bad person. She like, everyone's got blood on their hands. She was like abused as a child.
yeah. And then this abuse continued at the hands of
Yeah,
the dean and stuff. Yeah.
manipulated. But I do feel in this episode she crossed
Yes.
past and into sort of Homelander territory.
She went from I'm gonna kill this person in like a
She
what's it?
fucked with me.
It's like the battered wives defense, isn't it? When like a wife who's been abused by their husband for so
Mm,
long finally snaps and kills them.
yeah,
Um, if she would have just stopped at the dean, we'd have been like, yes, killing people obviously isn't okay, but we get it. She was a bad
yeah,
person who manipulated and abused you for years upon years.
yeah,
But then very quickly she's like, right, let's go free everyone from the woods and kill all of the humans.
yeah. Anyone that is human that works at the university is evil.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, hang on a second.
And then you've got everyone being very close, being very careful not to get touched by Kate. Going, well, let's just talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, after the seeds that were sown last episode with Sam
Yes.
getting kind of swept up by a pro suits rally,
Mm-hmm.
he was in the perfect headspace, having just seen someone he knows is bad be
Yeah.
killed by someone he's been told is good, saying,
Yeah.
right, let's go kill the other bad people. He's kind I can see his logic in initially siding with her. At which point Jordan tries
Mm.
to stop them from leaving.
Yeah.
And this might be one of the parts where I was really like, oh, Kate is beyond help. Where Kate goes, you might be able to stop me, Jordan, but do you think you can stop Sam?
It's that like in my head, I'm like, Jordan's no, just don't do it. Like we know Sam can rip people in half, not a
Pretty
care in the
easily.
world. They were taking his blood and putting it in Golden Boy to try and strengthen him. So we know he's like strong as fuck. And it's like, it's not worth the fight. Don't, please don't. And you get Marie's like the little shake of the head, like, no, don't do it. Like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Run
Um,
it back.
yeah. So they let them go. it is like it's weird because obviously, like you say, Sam, the seeds were sown last week, and it's kind of like he's watched this person that he wasn't trusting of because of what she did to Sam to Golden Boy to make him forget about Sam. To then she's just killed the person that was doing harm to him, and he's like, okay, maybe you are like seeing that to him is like, well, okay, you must be good because you've just got rid of the person that did all the hurt to me,
Yeah,
like pain to me. Sure, I'm going to side with you. I want to get, I want to free the other people. To him, he's like, yeah, I want to free the people that are in the woods. We deserve to be free. And I feel like that's as far as Sam's kind of thinking had gone.
what I think because of the nature of Sam's life and the way he's
Mm,
been treated, and also his psychological state, I think he's very much a kind of he sees everything as black or white
mm,
and doesn't allow and like there's no room for them shades of grey. And anytime
yeah,
a shade of grey is introduced is when he starts to have a bit of a breakdown and he gets hallucinations because it's all too much for him and he can't really. I mean, he's been in facilities like this for most of his life, so
yeah.
his brain trying to logically assess the pros and
Hmm.
cons of stuff on the fly isn't something he's built to do. So yeah, you're absolutely right. He's very much just a case of I was in the woods. I didn't deserve to be in the woods. No one else deserves to be in the woods.
Hmm.
They were hurting us and beating us and all of us. So I'm going to go free them.
Not really realizing what they might do to innocent people.
Yeah,
Then
it.
we obviously get the three of the others that then all have kind of like their own ideas of what they should do to stop them.
Yeah, we need to get there. We can't let Vought know what's going on because they're just going to come in and cover it all up.
Yeah,
We can't let it go past that because then it will just be used to hurt more soups.
yeah.
So we need to try and find a way ourselves to get everyone out safely and stop this from going wrong.
But then you've got Jonah's like, well, we'll just call campus security and warn them. And then Emma's like, well, no, because then Sam gets just because Sam's gone with Kate doesn't mean Sam's like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah,
And then you've got Marie's like, well, we've got to do something to kind of slow things down. And remember, then they've learned about the panic button, which I said last week that I reckon we'll see some sort of school lockdown, which we got
we did.
later on, but it was only brief. So yeah, they all rush off, and then we go back to Andre, who's in Vought Tower by the looks of
Yeah,
it, with his
and we
dad.
find out something that's been alluded to a number of times, and I
Mm,
can only assume he's going to end up being a big factor in the larger story. But
mm,
there's been a number of situations where people's prolonged use of their powers over their entire life has a negative effect on their body.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, we see it with Kate throughout this entire series. When she uses her powers too much, she gets really bloodshot eyes. She
Yep,
feels weak. She feels faint. And we find out that Polaris has essentially given himself
brain damage.
CTE. Yeah, brain damage. He's now in danger of seizures, which are obviously incredibly dangerous, as we saw
Mm-hmm.
last week, because his powers go haywire. And by using his powers to the degree he has over the years, he's broken down his neural networks and stuff, which has, by the sounds of it, left him partially paralyzed, kind of like a stroke victim, based on kind of what the doctor was saying.
Yeah, or at least very on the edge of becoming that. Like, uh, probably at the state now where if he continued to use his powers, he could end up in like a vegetative state
Yeah.
because he does so much damage. And it goes back to kind of like A Train with his heart. We saw it with
Yeah.
that. He was running too like his heart just couldn't handle the speed at which he was
And
running.
that was made even worse through his abuse of like the
The temp
V
V. Yeah,
steroids he
the
was
yeah.
taking.
We saw
Um,
obviously um Butcher using temp V is giving himself a brain tumor. And
yeah,
that's part and part like it's a experimental drug, but also probably what like it's just an accelerated effect.
yeah.
Um
Um, and then obviously when finding that out, he then finds out that I have the same powers as my dad.
yeah, he asks
So the
Andre the
doctor
same.
starts asking him. He's like, "Andre, are you having lightheadedness? Are you like blacking out? Are you
Which
struggling
he
with these things?"
brushes off and then has a little bit of a twitch on his lip. And when we see later his little finger twitches.
Yeah,
So it's like he is clearly
I'm
doing
willing
the
to bet.
same.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet if we go back through the show, we'll spot some of them. With the attention to detail put in these shows.
Mm.
How do we know, like a number of things that happened? Like, I'm sure if we go back to other times he's used his powers, we're going to see afterwards he's got a bit of a twitch or something going
Mm-hmm.
on. Because,
Probably.
like say, he was twitching there, but it also didn't feel out of character or obvious, other
No.
than the fact we were now aware of it, which makes me think it was
I
probably been happening all
yeah,
series.
I think it has, and I think we've probably subconsciously just taken it as like a nervous twitch because it's happened in
Yeah,
situations like that, and then now we're realizing, hang on, that's actually probably him messing with, especially over the last few weeks that's just gone on. He had with the stuff with Golden Boy, then Sam, like he's used his powers more. Like it's probably accelerated things a bit in the
yeah.
last month.
And when you consider his dad's probably late 40s, early 50s,
Mm.
and is now at such a serious stage,
Yeah,
if he stops using his powers now, he'll probably be fine.
yeah, yeah. You probably
But
would.
is he going to stop using his powers? No, because they all think they're God's gift to the world.
Yeah.
Um, so they break out the students from the forest.
Yes. We get the
And
Greg and Bob little running
yeah,
mix-up
I enjoyed
joke.
that.
Uh,
Sam just absolutely eviscerates his face.
yeah, Sam's killed both of Greg and Bob now.
Yes. Well,
Uh,
no, because Bob was killed. No, Greg
that
was killed by Emma
was
because
he?
she climbed into his
Oh,
ear and then
okay.
she
I thought
expanded a
Greg
little
was
bit
one
and
of
grew
the
his.
ones that went to kill him, and he saw
No, that was
puppets.
the person they assume killed that he killed when he was broken out by Sam.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because she said, "Oh," and now Bob hears brains all over the floor, and he's like, "Actually, that's Greg."
yeah, okay.
And
But if
yeah, Emma had like eaten a little bit of, was it his brain or a little bit of food she held on to? I can't remember. And she like
yeah,
blew his brain out from the insides out.
but something to note. This time he doesn't see puppets, which almost
No,
makes
he
you
doesn't.
realize he's more comfortable with what he's doing.
So
I
I
think.
took this as one of two ways. I think it is partially that, but I also think the other times he's seen puppets as when he's been like the only person in the scene other than the person he's seeing as a puppet.
Yeah,
So he's seen puppets on like two occasions when he went on that murderous rampage
yeah,
and when him and Emma had sex.
yeah,
And in both of them situations, everyone in the scene other than him is a puppet.
yeah.
And I don't know if that was just a choice that they decided not to do puppets because you have Emma and the other people, not Emma,
Okay,
Kate and the other people, or
maybe.
if, like you say, it is a
Yeah,
decision of like he's more comfortable killing people now and not trying to cower away from
possibly.
it.
I lean more to like it's to show those before. It's kind of like the puppet thing happens because he doesn't know how to handle the situation,
Yeah,
essentially. Whereas now he's starting to learn how to handle himself and feeling more confident about being a soup, and is on this like has this ideal now that yeah, soups matter and we should be free and we'll do anything for that.
yeah,
Obviously, then
100%.
it all kicks off.
Yeah, just absolute carnage on campus.
Yeah,
They just it was really interesting at first because you had the first guy who had I'm not quite sure what his abilities were. But we saw him do like a sonic scream, kind of like melting people's skin. But he just walks out and he's like, "Are you a soup? Are you a soup?" And the
yeah,
first person who says, "No, I'm not a soup," fucking beats the shit out of them and
yeah. It's
kills
like
them.
the used to, well, yeah, it's like Rufus doing a
Yeah,
fucking TikTok dance trend. And then he's like, yeah, of course I'm a soup. We're at the soup high school. What you on about? And then it's like the first person's like, I'm a teaching assistant. And it's just like, right, melt face. And then everyone, obviously, typical Gen Z fashion, pull the phones on and start recording.
easy there, boomer.
um, and then chaos ensues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meanwhile,
Um,
up in the office,
yeah. So I forget her name now. The new head of
Ashley.
Vought, Ashley, thank you, has turned up and she's like, "It's chaos, so we need to do what Vought does best and deflect, deflect, deflect. We're picking a new member of the
Well, yeah,
Seven
it's like
right now."
there's a bad name on the school right now. We need to do some press and PR here to protect things. Meanwhile, unaware that the woods
Murderous
people have
rampage
just
is happening.
escaped and it's all starting to kick off. And they're like, right, we're gonna go through. We've got thing, and we learn a bit of Andre's stuff. So
Yes.
it's magnetic strength powers. He has a limit of 12 tons, which is a
That's
wild
crazy.
amount of strength.
But how much does a helicopter weigh?
Uh,
Average
it won't be. I'm sure it won't be
helicopter
12. Like private helicopter.
weight. Um,
Surely not anything.
I don't. How much is a ton? Is that £1,000?
Yeah,
Okay, so the average is kind of 3.5 to £7,000.
yeah. I reckon they're
Um,
basing the 12 tons off like what his dad can easily do. So they're like, well, he probably gets to similar that if he really pushed himself.
so a medium helicopter would have a max weight of about £12,500.
Oh, so maybe that's sort of what the weight that Helen is. That's why he struggled a bit.
Yeah, he managed to do it just about.
Yeah.
Um, kind of makes sense. Awesome. At least it shows a little bit of thought went into it.
Yeah. And like, I thought it was interesting. You could pause and you could see on his notes because I saw someone like on social Twitter or whatever was like, uh, potential, but would need to have someone monitor him 24/7 till we can trust him because he might avoid things. I when he ditched on that interview he was meant to go to.
Yeah.
Like Vought pays attention to everything and they already have that marked down as like a right, well, we're gonna have to control you more.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just like that's in Vort's every decision. They will
Hmm.
take a massive risk on a psychopathic killer,
Yeah.
but they will also make sure they know, okay, what do we need to focus on? As great as it sounds, they're doing risk assessments. Like,
Mm,
if you've ever worked in like any kind of business, like you'll remember if anyone ever had to get up on a ladder, there was like two people who were like ladder certified, and there was risk assessments allowing them to get on in ladder. And
yeah.
that's what Vought are doing with superhumans,
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
which is funny and also absurd all at the same time.
And then I'm trying to think what came. I think obviously more. I think the lockdown gets kicked in.
No, the lockdown doesn't get kicked in just yet. We see the social media guy
Oh yeah, the social media
going
guy who's a fucking
upstairs.
mole for Vought.
Yeah. Um. Well, I mean, we knew he worked for Vought. I don't think we
Yeah,
quite understood
well,
how much he knew.
yeah,
He was
he's
clearly
basically just
quite
been
important.
planted there.
Yeah. So he gets attacked by one of the soups, and he's obviously got the stuff like anti-soup equipment
The
because
Sonic
we've been
shit.
told before they're bad for high
Yeah,
pitch frequencies. So he builds that the fuck up, then blows their head up, which was brutal.
yeah, he puts a little puck in him out and.
Yeah. And then Katie appears out of nowhere
Mm,
and goes, "Let's start a live stream." Fucking brutal. She makes him blow his own head up while
yeah,
she's live streaming it on Instagram to the world.
almost
And
feels
then
like
his
a nod to the head popper.
yeah, a little bit. And then his head just, splatters on Ashley's window
Mm,
as they're trying to work out as they've just been told on the phone what's going on.
yeah,
At which point Ashley's like, okay, start calling anyone who might be good enough for the seven. Whoever kills all these fucking psychos gets in.
yeah. Whoever kills
Which is
them,
such a Vought response.
yeah, whoever kills them goes straight into the seven. That's how you get you in. And
And
they,
also call Homelander in case they can't handle this.
yes, um, and I think yeah, that's when Ashley calls Marie and's like, oh, Vought CEO is like, oh, we're considering you for the seven. You just gotta do, and then all you gotta do is kill all of these psychos. And
Yeah,
Marie's
just get rid of them.
like, what the fuck? And then, but then she slips in that you'll get a meeting with your sister, and it's like, oh, how much am I willing to actually like? Would I bend the knee here?
Exactly.
That consideration.
Um, at which point, I think we then, not long after that, we get the alarm system put in place.
Yes, it's
Because
either
because
that or
Marie
is
got
it
that
the
phone
Emma
call
bit?
on the way to the office.
Yeah. I can't remember if the bit with Emma and Sam happens before that.
So I think the phone call happens, then the bit with Emma and Sam, and then it's the lockdown.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
forget now, but
Emma finds Sam about to kill
the director guy.
the director dude, and she's like, "Sam," and he drops it like a bad dog, which is
Yeah.
comedy.
But
Um,
then such my heart for Emma. Like so brutal of Sam.
yeah, she's genuinely just trying to be helpful and nice and explain that he doesn't actually want to do this, which we know he doesn't based on his
Yeah.
hallucinations.
Yeah, seeing Golden Boy
Um,
and stuff.
but he's just so he needs a lot of therapy.
Yes.
He needs so much therapy. And he just wasn't going to get it in time for all of these murders because
No.
Vought were more interested in using him to make other heroes stronger.
Yeah. It's
Um,
just unfortunately one of those situations where Emma's knows what's best for him, and kind of deep down he's sort of can know that, but he's like too strongly conflicted the other way.
yeah, I think the big internal fight for Sam is he does genuinely believe Emma wants what's best for him,
Hmm.
but he's also probably been told by the sick fucks experimenting on him,
They
shut
won't.
up, do as you're told, we know what's best for you.
Yeah. It's
So
that.
he's like, every other person I've ever trusted who said they know what's best for me has ended up hurting me.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna let anyone hurt me again.
Yeah. And then he lays into Emma a bit as well, which is like, oh, harsh.
Yeah. And then we get, which is a crazy reveal, Emma breaks down crying and she
Yeah.
shrinks.
Which even confuses her, I feel.
Yeah. Because she did it really quickly, really smoothly, whereas normally for her it's quite juddery because she's having to
Yeah.
force herself to throw up. And yeah, she's really confused. She's just kind of looking around with all of her clothes being really baggy on her, like,
It's like,
the fuck?
how, yeah, she's now unlocked a new way to change size, which then makes me think it's like, if crying makes her small, what makes her large?
Well, it can't just be crying because she will have cried before.
Well,
It's got to be an emotional thing. Like,
yeah,
did he make her emotionally feel small? So now she's shrinking. So to
maybe.
make her big, so you got to have like a hype person there. It's like,
Just a
oh, let's
hype man behind with
go.
a mic following around.
Yeah, just bigging up her ego until she grows. I don't know. Um, and that was the
Uh,
last we actually saw of Emma in the episode. We didn't see her again
yes,
after that.
we didn't. We
Oh
saw,
no, we did.
well,
We did
right at the end, but
right at the very end.
we saw, then we see Sam struggling a bit, and Kate says, well, do you want me to make you feel better? Make like you
Yeah.
feel nothing. To which I was so worried. I thought she was going to make him feel nothing, and then he was just going to go, oh, I don't care about any of this, and just fucking walk, just leave, just like disappear.
That would have been very funny.
If he was like,
Um,
oh, I don't have any hate or anger.
I feel literally nothing about anything. Do you know what I feel? Hungry.
Yeah, see you later, and
Punching people's heads off is quite tiring.
just jumped away. But then we got the lockdown, yeah, like you say, which
Yeah,
was very brief. You think,
yeah.
lockdown's come into effect. It's fine.
It once again shows how much thought Vought put into everything, though, because one of the big
Mm,
parts of the lockdown was that high pitched frequency all over the campus, which she just had everyone just like, apart from the humans who were like,
yeah.
heh.
Uh,
But
but
then
what?
you had one of the gentlemen from the woods use his shrinking
Yes,
ability to destroy the PA system.
yeah, and then it's like, we didn't think about that.
We didn't think that they have superpowers they could use to shut off the system.
And then yeah, even more full chaos then, and that's when we get Andre rocks up.
Yeah,
Um,
stops the helicopter from crashing.
yeah, then him and Marie, and then Kate sets Maverick on Marie.
Yeah, which I never even twigged that he's Translucent's kid until they were talking about him in the Who Should Join the Seven meeting.
Yes, it hadn't really. I just thought it was another like,
What I will say, take from it what you want.
mm,
Every person so far who
yeah,
has had similar powers has been related.
yes,
And this is something that, I mean, we get two examples of it in this episode with
mm-hmm,
Andre and Maverick.
yep,
And the only other person that exists with powers similar to Marie's is the head popper stateswoman, Newman. Um, are we going to find out they're actually related?
I don't think so. I think pure. It's just kind of pure luck. Maybe to throw you off a bit. I also something to
It's
note.
just such a recurring theme that I'm a bit
Yeah,
curious.
it's an interesting one because you also got to remember like the only other time we've seen someone with the same powers as their parent was Homelander's son, but
Yeah,
that son is an actual born soup.
yeah.
But as far as we're aware, that's like the one situation of that. Does that mean like
I
Andre
actually
and Maverick?
don't.
It wouldn't surprise me if they were just babies and their parents pumped them with V. Part of Vought being like, well, you've gotta keep the brand going. You've got to have
Yeah,
this like pass it on sort of thing. It's good for the brand. So
and
they,
they're going to have a really good chance of being a success here at Vault because they're a
yeah,
people love legacy
yeah.
characters,
It's all
apart from Miles
marketing.
Morales.
Um, and it's obviously something genetic based.
Yeah,
That is why they're getting same powers. Um, it'll be
I
interesting because didn't Head Popper inject her daughter
maybe I believe so.
back in the boys, which then could mean she has blood powers as well.
You've watched The Boys more recently than me,
Yeah,
honey.
I'm
I'm
trying to
relying on you
remember.
here.
I'm pretty sure she did, but we don't know what happened to that daughter.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. It was just something I thought was worth
Yeah.
mentioning because there is a habit of people with similar powers ending up being related.
Mm.
So we shall see, I guess.
I
Um,
thought it was very cool that how Marie defeated Maverick. I was like, she's
yes,
obviously going to just sense where he is. Wasn't actually quite expecting to like see the full.
the visualization of it to kind
Mm,
of give us an idea of what her powers are like for her, but
yes,
also
help
just
us
so
see
that we
where.
had a better idea of what was going on was really fucking cool.
Can we also point out that both Maverick and his dad both got beaten because of blood,
Yeah.
but just spat blood on his dad so he could see him. Marie just saw his blood. So
The
biggest weakness.
the parallels that the boys continues to
Mm,
create are it's very enjoyable and I enjoy when shows create parallels. Now, what I will say is very, very interesting.
okay.
Um so we after that we see Jordan get dogpiled by three
Yes.
and like he's
Soups.
basically close to dying. So Marie's
Yeah.
like, I have to do something to help. And she gives one of the people a heart attack essentially. Just like straight up stops her heart where she stands.
Yeah.
Does that mean that Newman has been choosing to blow people's heads up for the
Shock
snazziness
factor.
of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because every time she's blown someone head up and created this massive mess, we now know she could have just, like we were saying,
Mm.
given them a brain aneurysm or stopped their
Blood clot
heart.
or yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
But
yeah.
she's
Well,
choosing to actively blow their fucking brains everywhere.
it's
That's
it.
psychotic.
Well, you got to remember though when she was first like appearing before we knew who was doing it.
Yeah.
It was causing confusion, and when it happened in the courtroom and all the heads were like it was just causing like mad confusion. Whereas if people just started having heart attacks, it'd be like, yeah, but you're not
Um,
wrong. Like I also think that's partly as well Marie not fully having a grasp on what she can control properly. She
yeah.
just sort of thought like was just trying to stop that person and giving her a heart attack is what happened.
Yeah. And then one of the other people, while trying to escape Marie, starts running towards the helicopter where the
Mm,
board of directors are hiding.
that's
And we
when
get the scene that you have been calling for
yeah.
since the second we started to understand Marie's powers.
It's like, oh, there's all these dead bodies around. Full ammunition to use blood at full strength and not worry about making herself lightheaded. And yeah, she just flurry of daggers.
It was fucking awesome.
It was very cool.
At which point Jordan starts to get up, and I'll be honest, it made me a little bit uncomfortable because I get they like each other and I get they know they're working together and they're doing what they have to do.
Mm.
But no matter how much I understand what someone has to do, I don't know if after seeing the person I like and I want to kind of date, brutally murder a couple of people, I'm not sure I'd be like that happy and smiley.
Well,
Like, I wouldn't hold it against them because I understand she was saving my life and like doing what was probably right. But I'm not sure I'd be like, that was dope.
yeah, but you've also got to remember Jordan's just craved like people like accepting them or wanting them.
True.
So in a way, that's Marie showing that she cares and want like. So I don't know,
So
but yeah, then you
did
get Kate reaches for
yeah. So when you see her like it goes to slow mo, her start to reach out to Jordan, you're like, oh no, fuck, is Marie gonna have to kill Jordan? Because that was
yeah,
my concern.
yeah. I was like, oh shit, we're gonna have Jordan and Marie fight, and that's gonna be. I was like, Marie's just like Marie will kill him. I was like, this is gonna be the line Marie crosses to do whatever it takes,
Yeah.
and then she's gonna
And
become
then
the
it's
Vought. Mm. But no, she blows off Kate's arm.
that was fucking visceral, by the way. Like I shit you not. So I was running a bit late this week. Like I said, the week kind of flew by. So I was
Mm.
watching Generally in Invincible tonight while I was doing my notes. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sat here typing, watching it like this. And then I see her arm explode and I go like that. Like the most YouTuber reaction I might have ever unironically done. I was like, oh shit. Couldn't believe it.
Oh no,
Very,
yeah, it was,
very,
and
very
then the like Kate's realization is just us screaming, and then Homelander appears.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not
Homelander
surprised
arrives.
we finally got the cameo.
Yeah. I was really curious how shit was going to go down when he arrived. I knew he wasn't going to be there for long because they don't want to waste Homelander time on a spin
No.
off. They just wanted to use it to set up season 4 of The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
But the way he kind of looks at Marie with such disgust,
Well,
and he's like,
yeah,
could you do this to your own kind? What kind of an animal are you? I was like, oh, shit.
and he does the finger wag that he loves to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, Homelander's not gonna be here to save the day.
Yeah.
It's that realization of he's Vort's thing, and they're gonna want to cover this up.
But it's not just that as well. He is also while he acts in his best interest,
Yeah.
and his best interest is Vought not going under right now, and he
Mm.
needs all of the right wing like soups don't kill people, people kill people bullshit. Because like all the conversation around soup control is literally like the gun control argument.
Mm.
So he needs like the idea of God fearing American soups are a good thing. It's all these foreign soups that are a problem.
Well, yeah, it's also like he'll understand that however this spins, probably is going to bump them up to be on the 7, and he wants to control who's on that team, and he wants people that aren't potentially going to be willing to turn on each other.
Yeah, exactly.
He wants people that are sort of all of the same mindset that soups are the best. So he
So
blasts
we
Marie.
see, yeah, we see Zai start to light up as he's pointing at Marie, and then it just cuts to black. And I genuinely thought the show was just going to end there. I genuinely thought, as it cut to black, that was going to be like endless season, see you in The Boys.
Yeah.
And I would have been like, yeah, the Family Guy gif of, I want it now, and Peter just destroying the front room.
No, yeah, I was like, oh shit, that's. I was like, no way, they've just killed them, or just killed Marie like that. And then also, but then it's like, obviously, then it cuts to
the news feed.
The news feed that Kate and Sam saved the day.
The new Guardians of Godolkin saving
Yeah.
everyone from the 4 psychos.
And then those 4 wake up in a cell on hospital beds, and the only door is a hatch in the roof. It's a very similar to cell to what Maeve was kept in.
Yeah.
So most likely is in the basement of Vought Tower.
Almost certainly.
And we have no idea how they ended up there. I have a theory.
Okay.
Last time they blacked out and woke up, it was Kate. What if in Kate's pain and as Homelander, she just basically made them all go to sleep? Like the dream
Maybe.
situation. So then that way Homelander didn't like full on like just eviscerate her, but then obviously all of them got taken away.
I don't know. I think the way Andre said it, I think Marie fully did just tank
Maybe.
Homelander's hit. And then everyone else has gone, fuck it, I don't want that smoke. Because they all seem like they know what's happened, even though they haven't told Marie yet.
True.
I think they've then kind of been taken up by Vault Security, the Seven, whoever. And they're kind of like,
Do
okay,
you know what
we'll
I
work out
bet
how this goes.
happened is that went down and they were like, okay. And then Vought was like, right, we need to take you all in to like, this needs to be settled. And then basically they took him in on the precedent that like, we're figuring out what the fuck just happened. And then they actually just chucked him in a cell and ran their own version of events because of what they wanted. Yeah. I'll be honest, in the chaos of that ending, I forgot this was the final episode. And I was like, it obviously went to credits and we got like the post-credit extra little snippet, but we'll get to. But I was like, I need the next episode. And I was like, wait, there is no more episodes? No, this isn't fair. But we get Butcher.
Yeah, we get Butcher walks into some kind of underground cell, which I assume is the woods.
Well, yeah, it was the woods abandoned.
Yeah, and he just kind of goes, "What a bunch of cunts."
Yeah.
Cut to black.
Which
I also loved the use of music at the end of it. Like the way they were using the music and it cut, and then it just cut straight back into the music after that post-credit scene was very, very well done.
I think that answers the question that he definitely was on the phone of the CIA agent woman.
Yeah.
And is obviously going to be investigating into things. I think the woods is kind of like shut down because they're not going to risk doing it under the school now.
Yeah, they've realized that was a bad idea.
I think, obviously, we know season 4 of The Boys is going to lead straight on from this.
Yeah, it takes place about a month after the end of Gen V, we've been told.
Oh, I thought it was like a few days.
No, it was rumored to be. It was rumored to only be a couple of days, but apparently it's a few.
Oh, okay. So we know things are going to continue. Obviously, we know Gen V is getting another season. I reckon Gen V season 2, the school's back, rebranded, same school, not doing shit underneath it, but rebranded, and Vought is now like fully to try and be like, no, this is a reputable school still. We've fixed things. Vought themselves will say this is now run by us. And people are like, oh, great. And it'll be a lot more like getting people in control of into the Vought wheel of things.
Yeah. Instead of hiding it as a university, they would turn it into like an academy for Vought.
Yes.
To make it make a bit more sense, I think. Phenomenal series though.
Oh,
might be one of the best superhero shows available.
Yeah. I think also like one of the best spin-off shows from like a main series.
I can't think of many shows that have had such a well put together spin-off. We've also got to remember, as far as I know, again, I've not read the Boys comics. As far as I know, this is completely original.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
As far as I know, like there was no like Gen V comic or anything.
Yeah.
There might have been references to a Godolkin University in the comics.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was any other major stories about it. So I think all of these characters and this story is completely original from the creators as a direct spin-off of their adaptation of The Boys. So it really shows that they've got some good, fresh ideas for this universe that can definitely work in the long run.
Oh, yeah. Very much excited to see where The Boys goes and where Gen V season 2 goes.
100%. And as if that wasn't enough excitement for us this week.
Yeah.
Loki's penultimate episode, episode 5. Again, at the end of last week, we ended with
so many questions.
Temporal loom go boom. What now?
What's going to happen?
Here. Yeah, has the universe been reset?
Mm-hmm.
Is everyone just dead? What happened?
Yeah. we were trying to figure out what happens next, like who came first, Victor Timely or OB, like who started the TVA, how is it, like what does this now mean that Victor Timely's gone? And we jump straight back in moments after that like flash of the explosion, and Loki's on his own. And the
Yes.
loom back in a state of not exploding.
Yes. So I think this kind of foreshadowed what ended up happening at the end of the episode. So,
Yes.
um, obviously spoilers, but we don't even bother saying that most of the time now. But we're going to jump around a bit in this episode to try and make it make sense.
Yeah.
Time travel, it makes stuff messy.
Yeah.
But so we come back and the timeline seems stable, and but the people are missing.
Seems back to like beginning of the season sort of thing where the loom is overloading but
Yeah.
like struggling but
So
not exploding.
what if the temporal loom, the way it's designed, we know when it was close to exploding before,
Mhm.
they just pruned a bunch of timelines and that gave it a bit more bandwidth again to not blow up, yeah?
Yeah.
What if by blowing up it like pruned this stuff in a more aggressive way and in a more natural way of unraveling the timeline? And that's why we get the effect we get in Sylvie's world, and that's why all of the variants who control the TVA are gone. Because their universes they come from, the material of it's just been dissolved into everything, and they come from that material.
So my theory on why it kind of bumped back but no one's there. It's like when Loki he's walking around, there's the code or it's like code 112 or whatever it's saying over the tannoy,
Yeah,
um blaring constantly. Clearly it's like in reboot in progress, or so it's saying this thing of like reset essentially.
yeah,
I think what
100%.
we actually witnessed was when it exploded, and obviously all that temporal aura or whatever. When that happens, the TVA has like their version of a blue screen. It sends anyone there immediately is jumped back to like they're wiped from the TVA and they're back in their timelines. It kind of jumps way back, and it's
Got
like
ya.
shut down. TVA has to like disintegrate, reset, ready for a new one. It's like it's fail safe. And Loki being there on his own is because he's kind of like a very weird anomaly. Even from being a variant, he's just like we've talked a lot about like Loki's this weird like third part to this whole TVA thing.
Yeah,
And I think him being there on his own is because of that. And then it's like we get while he's in there, we get the first like weird time loop happens where
yeah,
he sees himself, then disappears, and then we get the replay, and then he is the person once picking up the TVA handbook, and he hears himself
himself.
that we've just seen, and it's like, wait, what the fuck is going on here? Then everything starts disintegrating. I think that's literally the loom explodes, like you were saying was going to happen. It restarts the loop. The TVA's failsafe is just like it deletes itself essentially, and means it's there ready to be rebuilt. Like the place wherever the TVA is like, okay, now a new TVA can be built where this was, and we start again. And I do think Loki is part of that loop.
Yes. It's interesting because his time slipping's come back, and
Mm,
he's just jumping between these random places. The funniest of which is obviously Alcatraz.
yes.
So Jenna wasn't aware of this story, and I don't know how many of our viewers will be. But basically, Alcatraz, which is now just a tourist destination,
Yep.
was the perfect prison.
Yep.
It was known as the Rock because it was built on a rock in the middle of the San Francisco Bay.
Hmm.
The waters around there are so choppy and dangerous that no one could get there without a proper decent boat designed for this. At which point the watchtowers would be able to see what was going on, which meant no one could escape.
Yeah. It was
It
meant to
was the
be
perfect prison.
unescapable.
Exactly. Um, and I forget the year, even though it said it in the show. But
It's like
basically,
1962 or something.
three men managed to tunnel their way out of their cell
Hmm.
and get to the edge of the Alcatraz rock,
Hmm.
where they had built a handmade kind of boat thing.
Raft, inflatable boat.
Yeah,
Hmm.
which they were going to row out and escape on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of the records show that they got to their dinghy,
Yes.
but no one knows what happened after that.
Yeah, they never found bodies. They never found them. They never found any remains.
They never
Presumed to
found.
be dead.
Yes. So, because of the way the bay works, if they did drown there, if they've sunk to the bottom because they've got stuck on something, you're never going to find their bodies.
Yeah.
But also because of the undercurrents in there, if
Mm-hmm.
they sunk, they could have just been swept out to sea.
Yeah. And then
At which point,
back then
again,
you
you're
had
probably
no
never going to
means
find them.
to do search and rescue
Yeah.
for that.
But there is always the idea that because
They
there are no
escaped.
bodies, they didn't die, they escaped, and they went on to live a life having never been caught.
Yep.
It is very funny because the second greatest ever criminal mystery alongside that is DB Cooper,
Yep.
which we found out in season 1 was Loki
Yep.
on a dare from Thor and Heimdall.
Yep.
So finding out Casey was one of the Alcatraz 3 was really, really funny.
Basically alluded Casey to be Frank Morris, I think is the name of the
Yeah.
guy that. And yeah, they were very clever with the details. They had the paper mache head in the bed. They had dug out obviously the vents, and like the way that they did escape, they pretty much showed it exactly as, clearly alluding to the fact that like this is the 3 people that escaped. Then
Yeah,
I think
big
that
time.
the slight thing where they've had creative with it is when obviously Loki appears on the beach, and then Casey's character is just like, wait, is this? And they're like, is this the boat guy? You're in the wrong place. Giving off this theory that I think the theory some people have is that they used the dinghy to get to one of the other islands and then got on a boat there and disappeared.
Yeah.
And it's like playing into this fact that people don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But Loki obviously learns Casey don't know who he is, and then time slips away after a bit of a conversation.
Yeah. They all look away and then he slips again and ends up in New York 2012.
Yes.
I'm really surprised, bearing in mind the dates they gave,
Mm.
that we didn't get a reference to the Battle of New York.
Now, my guess is if this is a hospital in New York 2012 with no reference to the battle, it's got to be set before.
Yes, but then why is it New York 2012? Do you know what I mean?
It's because it's a significant known place and time that everyone immediately is going to go, wait, New York 2012? Also funny to be like, that's what Loki caused that, and he pulled one of the a different Loki then pulls someone from there, and it's like, yeah, she's like a B12, no, yeah,
Yeah,
B12.
it was B12. Is a doctor.
She's a doctor, seemingly just kid with a broken arm. I've read something like her name is something in like a reference to something in the comics. I forget the name now, but her name on the timeline is reference to a character that Thor interacted with, who swallowed some ring when they were a child, and
Googling.
I forget what it was, but I think the idea is it's a reference to that because obviously Loki and stuff, but it's not actually her because she doesn't have powers. But she was in the comics. That character was the only person that could kind of put Loki in his place. And I mean, B12 pretty much puts Loki in his place throughout these 2 seasons.
Okay.
I'll be able to find after.
Verity Willis is her name on the timeline. And she's a character who seems to be like pro Loki and give Loki a chance.
Yeah, which is I think just like because of this, what this series is, they're trying to just play reference to that.
She has like this ability to see through disguises by the looks of it. So she encountered Loki in disguise and she was able to see straight through his disguise. So the idea is she can see Loki as his true self.
Which is sort of what B12 has done.
Yeah, which it's a cool reference to make.
Yeah.
Then we find out that I think once we saw where this kind of stuff was going,
Oh yeah,
no
everyone
one
knew.
was surprised to see that Mobius was a jet ski
Yes,
salesman.
it was just like, and that's 2022.
Yes, that's post snap.
Yes, and he's a single dad.
Yes, and we don't really find out where his wife went.
I think we can all assume where his wife went.
But does that mean we are going to get hopefully a very nice scene when he returns Mobius to the sacred timeline of seeing Mobius's wife has returned post blip?
It depends, because if he puts him back right where he left, then no.
Um, the other interesting bit, which I thought was very, very sweet,
Mm,
despite having his memory wiped God knows how many times,
mm.
his love of spending time with his wife on jet skis was
Yeah.
so ingrained that he still sought out jet skis.
This is the thing, right? It's like, although they've all had their memories wiped, like you say, the jet ski thing is still just there. It's like a deep ingrained thing. If you remember season 1, Casey had a drawer full of just knickknacks and
Oh,
infinity
yeah, he had
stones,
loads of Infinity Stones.
as
Yeah,
if he'd just like yoinked them. And like he said, they were just paperweights, but that's definitely kind of like a bit of his thievery, maybe still lingering there. And then B12 was always like, could see better in people and was always trying to help everyone
yeah.
like a doctor would. So
You just can't avoid some of these feel like the
they're
innateness of a person.
yeah, they're canon events.
Yes. And then we find out OB was a fucking physicist who was desperate to be an author.
Well, yeah, we think he's just an author and he's writing sci-fi books and doing like the funniest thing of like, I can pay cash if it's not on there, and then the owner of the books was like, "We've told you we don't sell your books. Stop putting them on our shelves."
Did you notice anything interesting about his warehouse?
Yes, I did.
It's the exact
It's
same
his work.
set.
It's his
Yeah,
workshop.
that is
Now,
not an accident.
no, it's not. So there's two things to like. Obviously, like you say, he's a PhD physicist because Loki's like, "Oh, you're an author. This is useless," and he goes, "Well, I had to pay the bills, so I got a PhD." Like, but then yeah, his warehouse is the exact same. And with everything we're going to get, like obviously with Loki and all that happens in this episode, and this idea that I'm leaning to of Loki is kind of the key to the TVA being built, I genuinely think Loki, he then gives the guidebook to AD Doug, as he is in this, not
Yeah,
OB. And then, like, in 19 months, he'd made a tempad. I wouldn't be surprised if essentially AD Doug builds the TVA and it starts with his workshop, so it looks
yeah.
identical, or like somehow Loki just takes the workshop to where the loot, like
Well,
the timeline, like into
I
this.
think it's the extension of the jet skis and the seeing the best in people
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I think when he was building his workshop, without even realizing it, he was building this place that is clearly a very big part of who he was on the sacred timeline. Don't get me wrong, you might be right that actually that ends up being where the TVA was built from.
yeah. It's just like
But
that's like maybe it's like Loki, that timeline world all starts like peeling away, and Loki somehow just bubbles the work that warehouse, and then it's just it leans into like obviously like I think clearly built out the TVA for like he's what started it because
yeah,
everything is analog, like the computers he's using in that time, like it's his time period encapsulated. And it's like then maybe he hands it on to Victor Timely, and then that's how things develop. But yeah, the lab being identical was a such a smart
but
little detail.
I think we need to discuss the parallels between this episode and episode 1.
Yeah.
Because what we have is we have Loki slipping through time completely uncontrollably, panicking, and he's trying to find Mobius and Casey and OB and have conversations and relay information and get them all in the right place so that at the end of the episode they can execute the big reset of his time slipping. That was
Yes.
episode 1. And what we've got this time is he's trying to, while being thrown about through time, relay information to Casey and OB and B12 and Mobius so that he can get his time slipping under control and try and fix the TVA.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the only difference is this time, instead of stopping his time slipping,
He
OB
learns to
is
control.
like, just control it, forehead.
Yeah. He's like, well, if it's uncontrollable, that means it should be controllable.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So this is kind of, I think, OB's kind of entire arc in this episode, I think, is very important for anyone who wants to enjoy comic book movies, comic books, comic book projects in general. It's that suspension of disbelief. He's like, yes, I'm a scientist first and foremost. So I know what's impossible is impossible, blah, blah, blah. But what you're describing is impossible, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's more fiction than science. So why are we trying to use science to work it out?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the approach you take this stuff. It's like, okay, cool. This person has superpowers. Why are we trying to sit here and go, oh, if he's running that fast, his clothes should just burn off?
Yeah.
It's like this kind of idea. And I think it's actually a really good mindset to take into this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like, AD's mindset of like, well, what you're describing is impossible in science, but you've just done it. So that means it's possible, just not by science. So this is fiction. And it's like a hint at like, it's sci-fi.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed that, but it leaves OB again like he was in the first episode in this situation where he's like, oh no, but you can't do that. So we're going to do it. And it's that what we found really endearing and funny in that first episode, like time slipping inside the TVA is not possible.
Well, yeah,
but it is.
It shows like that from episode 1. That's always been his mindset. Like, wait, he's like, that's not possible. But he has just done it. But it's not possible. But he's like still in that mindset of like, well, still leans to like what is actually possible or not, and then realize, but still there, knowing things do happen.
Yeah. And it also shows that the innate goodness of these people is innate to them, because despite the craziness of this situation, they all do instantly like, okay, yeah, we'll help you. We don't really know what you're talking about, and you're a crazy man who keeps disappearing and reappearing, but yeah. Fuck it, let's go.
The record shop.
Oh no, we haven't got there yet.
The visuals though, because obviously he goes looking for Sylvie.
He goes looking for Sylvie, and Sylvie says that she remembers being there after the explosion.
Well,
everyone was gone, so she just left.
Yeah. So she has he who remains is like special tempad, which I think is very key to everything, because her using that to kick Loki through at the end of season 1 is what started all his time slipping. And she seems also, again, she's a Loki variant. She wasn't affected by the TVA reset. Like, there's some weird like exclusion to the rule that the Lokis have. But yeah, she's just like, yeah, I came back to my timeline. No, I'm not going to help you. Like, I'm back here. Everyone's gone back to their life.
The TVA's gone. Everyone's living their life.
Everyone's back to their lives. Like, what are you trying to save? And he's like, and basically gets down to it. Like, Loki wants his friends back. He just doesn't want to be on his own. And so he goes back and he's like, can't save things. But then Sylvie goes off to the record shop. Seems like everything's fine, but we've already seen her McDonald's eviscerate.
Yeah, and that was the thing at first. That was kind of like, because that was the first time we kind of seen that happen so obviously. Everyone kind of assumed, oh, Loki like grabbed it as a joke or whatever. And then it never got spoken about and no one really thought about it. And then you start to see other stuff disappear and then you're like, oh no, the timelines are literally crumbling.
Yeah. All the branch timelines and everything. And it's that record shop.
They handle it so well.
The choice of music, and Sylvie's just vibing with her headphones, feeling, and then it's like, person comes into the store, instantly gets like, dusted.
You hear the bell ring, but they never come in.
So then he looks at the door and he's like, wait, there's no one there. And then he looks down and his cup's gone that he was pouring coffee into. And then everything around him starts to like and he obviously like screams Sylvie and tries to, and then just gets, and she looks up, and it's like everything around her is just slow-mo,
Collapsing.
just collapsing, the
Yeah.
record spinning and starts like unraveling. Like the visuals of it, stunning.
The visuals of a entire timeline, like
Like the
sort of
threads
crashing
all
out
coming
and the
apart.
threads coming so beautiful. It was a really, really good
And
artistic
like
choice to go for that
watching
style.
Sylvie kind of like realize, accept that this is all collapsing. What I had hoped I was now had my piece. And it's like watching like what she tried to get, then all just fall apart and it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
To accepting, okay, and then just Tempad steps out and like realizes, right, we've got to go fix this, and I guess to where Loki was
Um
already giving up, and then suddenly
yeah.
Sylvia's here.
But she arrives a bit too late because the
Mm.
Tempad has already eviscerated and disappeared.
Well, yeah, Casey had looked at it and was going to take it, and then he claims I didn't take it, and we obviously all then presume, oh shit, it's dusted.
Hmm.
Um, and then like each of the characters start doing it, and everything starts collapsing here, and Loki's like, ah shit, we're too late.
Yeah. And he like tenses up and goes nuts and it rewinds a little bit. And then it's
Mm,
like, wait, what the fuck? He's like, I can fix it. Rewinds a bit more, rewinds a bit more, rewinds a bit more. And then he's back there in the room with everyone. And he's like, you guys can't fix this. I have to.
yeah,
And then
he's
he
like,
does
he
another.
realizes I can control it. To which OB's like, oh shit, you figured out how to control it. And then boom, we're back to Victor Timely's just gone down the stairs. There at the top of it, meltdown. I think so. This is where we're now onto what happens next week.
Yes.
And
In
how does
about
this,
6 hours.
yeah, and how does this end? We know
All
from what
I
we've
know.
heard. Go on.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, we know from what we've heard online, it is a significant like thing happens that like is going to change kind of MCU going forward. I am still, I still am leaning towards TVA's fully gone. Um, or well, I was still leaning to that after last week, but like maybe now it's back to Loki rewinds too far because he obviously isn't at a point where he can save it. We know that point where Victor Timely goes down. If anyone went through that door, it's over. It's too late. So he's gonna have to go back further. I wonder if he messes up and goes too far back to when there's like bad Kangs, and then
Goes back to get some info.
yeah, or like goes back and or like goes back to save the TVA but fucks something up, and oh, I'm on the spot thinking here. He probably goes back, stops Victor Timely going to do the thing, so he doesn't get eviscerated. But then that essentially sets up there is now a Kang in charge of the TVA again, and this time it might not be a good one.
Mm.
And that's why it changes things going forward, because now we've got a Kang in charge of a fresh TVA. Maybe.
It's a really interesting one, and I still don't think the Marvels and Loki now coming out on the same day is an accident.
No.
Like Marvel have 52 weeks in a year. And bearing in mind they know there's a shortage of content coming up because of the strikes and the writer strikes and stuff.
Yes.
You would be forgiven for going, well, why don't they just push back the Marvels 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and just give themselves a bit more of a buffer? I think
Mm-hmm.
there is a reason they're doing it. We know, based on what we've heard recently, that apparently the Marvels has had a big change to how the story ends,
Mm-hmm.
which makes a big difference. Apparently, Loki is changing the way the MCU is going forward.
Mm-hmm.
We could be in for a big one.
Oh, I've just had a thought of how it changes things going forward. Through this series, or this season, we've got used to now seeing at the bottom location, date, sacred timeline, branch timeline. What if the change is the loom gets repaired so it can handle more threads, which essentially means we have branch timelines allowed now, and some of the events or some of these films might be branched timelines. Like, what if things going forward now is they use branch timelines and then we start getting this weird, like, we're getting something that happened on a branch timeline. So then we start not knowing what's going on a sacred timeline.
Yeah, no, it's very possible, especially when you consider now that we know he can skirt back further in time.
Mm.
Why would he stop now? Because you've got to remember before, when they tried to fix his time slipping,
Hmm.
the radiation was fine out there. If
Yes.
they if Loki grabs the information he needs on how to make a throughput multiplier, slips back to episode 1 when it was still safe out there, goes
Hmm.
out, launched a throughput multiplier, the problem solved before it's a problem.
Yes. But, oh, well, yeah, because they can do that before the blast doors close. Then they don't have the
Yeah,
issue of
needing
needing a
fixed
Victor
time.
Timely.
Yeah.
I do think he isn't going to stop where we saw him finish.
Bearing in mind the entire season's been about flying backwards and forwards through time,
Mhm.
and all of last episode was setting up going back in time, it would make sense for them to go to episode 1 to fix it because of all the just the shithousery of it, and then once they fix it, they can go even further back in time to, like you say, he's now at the beginning of the TVA and he's trying to, maybe he becomes like one of the first TVA agents to try and from the inside direct it towards what it needs to be to protect themselves from Kang.
Or, theory, he goes back to save things and then he's like, okay, I fixed it. I can go back to what he knows as present day because he's like,
He comes from
I
New
can
York.
go back to present day and continue on now. And he goes back to what would have been the time of like Victor Timely trying to save things because that's the last like known point he has. And he goes back, and Victor Timely's still been brought in, but the TVA wasn't in meltdown, and he's come in and and like suddenly he's like, "Oh shit, I've just
Oh, we get
allowed a Kang, like there's just some like Kang in charge now," and he's like, "Ah shit."
because they've like already fixed the timeline. Ravona's around to go and get Kang to do what she wants him to do, and
Mhm.
they don't even go looking for him because you've got to remember they saved him from Ravona.
Yeah,
So if yeah, you're right, that would create a
like it could,
change in the
yeah.
events. Yeah, no,
So
you're absolutely right.
maybe that's what the change is. Like Loki unknowingly sets up He Who Remains essentially, or like a variant.
You did
Whether
say
that,
I'll see you again real soon at the
yeah.
end of season 1. You're not wrong. I can see it. It'll be very interesting to see how it unravels. That is for
Mm.
sure. Um, Invincible.
Yes, we got Invincible season 2 episode
We
1.
yeah, we're back. We are so back. I
So
used to
much
pray for
happened
times
this
like
week.
these.
Yeah.
Now I called that most of the stuff we saw in that trailer was going to happen in episode 1.
You did.
I called that they were trying to bait us with maybe a bit of an evil Mark
Yes.
character arc, and in fact, it was one of the multiversal Marks where he agreed with his dad.
Yep.
I promise I haven't read ahead in the comics. I'm just smart. um, and I think it was just it was so good to be back.
Mm.
So good to be back. It felt just. Seeing that start of Invincible and Immortus fighting.
Yes. And
Um,
you think, hang on a second, because they were so smart with it because we know at the end, Immortal or whatever got repaired,
reanimated.
yeah, and who's gonna come back. And it's
Yeah.
like suddenly we see him and Mark fighting, and you think, fucking hell, Immortal's back out of being in thing, and he thinks Mark's evil.
Yeah, he's like, I don't trust Omni-Man's son. I'm gonna go deal with this.
Yeah, and we think, oh shit, he's now like he doesn't trust Mark, and we're like, well, but Mark's a good guy. Then
Hey, it's Mark. He's a good guy.
then it's like Mark's like, I've taken harder punches than this. And then it sort of like comes to light that, oh shit, no, he teamed with his dad.
Yeah, the way his dad comes in with a fucking chop on the arm.
Well, yeah, it's like Mark starts like throwing in kicks and punches and like more moves, and then Immortal just grabs him by the throat, and you think, shit, and then boom, arm gone. and
then obviously we get the head chop again. How are you gonna fall flat trick twice?
Well, he might not have fallen for it in that planet yet.
I really enjoyed the caving his skull in.
Yeah.
And just going immortal your way out of that.
Yeah. Immortal your way out of that. And then we get the city that's like derelict.
We get the first of many phenomenal title card baits.
Yes.
So obviously in season 1, I don't think we've like basically ever hear anyone say the word Invincible.
They don't.
Every time someone goes to say it, it cuts to the title card. And they bait it like 4 or 5 times.
So many times. And I'm like, okay, this time, and I'm like, okay, they're just not going to do it anymore. That's their new thing. They're just not going to do it.
And he's like, and in case you've forgotten, you can't stop me because I'm, and they do the pause as well.
Yeah.
I'm invincible.
Yeah.
And then the video loop just starts again. And we're following a man throughout the city, who we later find out is, I forget his name already, Avery Langston.
Yeah, that's correct.
Who goes down into some kind of little rebellion group.
Yeah.
And then Mark and his dad crash the party and just start causing chaos.
Also to note, the rebellion group has an Atom Eve.
Yeah, and
with a shaved head and a robot. And I think obviously at this point we know this is a different universe.
Yeah.
But to then have like Atom Eve's there, but she's got a shaven head and like a jacket on, looking a bit more
rugged.
Yeah. You got Robot, who's not looking quite the same.
Yeah, he's in this universe. He clearly hasn't managed to create his new body, so he's still his little alien goop thing.
But his alien little goop thing's got his own little body, walks around like robot legs. And then Mark and that crash the party. They eviscerate. Omni-Man destroys the robot.
Yeah. In a really brutal way as well, because clearly that fluid is what keeps him alive.
Yeah.
And he just fucking leaves it to drain, which I assume essentially is just letting him suffocate.
Yeah.
Which is just brutal. And then I think the most unhinged thing I could have even, bearing in mind like how likable Mark is, to see the exact same voice actor and the exact same character design goading Eve and being so just horrific and like pure evil. And just like, I can't kill you. I would never kill you. Just fucking paralyzes her.
Well, yeah,
instead.
it's like they're fighting, and obviously he catches up to Atom Eve, and like it looks like he's just snapped a neck, and you're like, well, shit. And then his dad goes, I know that was hard, and he's like, oh, it's fine. She's not dead. I've just paralyzed her. I'll visit her. I've got people who can look after her. And it's like, that's so evil to do that to someone. And that
is a whole other level of
insanity.
Like,
keep them alive so you can visit them and still be friends, even though they probably hate what you have become now. And then his dad's like, oh, I wondered what you were practicing on those people. And it's like,
on the protesters.
How many times did Mark practice it and just snap their neck and kill them?
Like unhinged.
Yeah. And then we see the multiverse.
They go to start killing the civilians who are part of the
rebellion.
And he's like, sadly, we're gonna have to kill all of you. But remember, you did this to yourselves because you rebelled. And then as they go to kill the guy, he drops down through the portal, and Mark goes, "The hell was that?" And Omni-Man just doesn't give a fuck. He's like, who cares? There's still more to kill. Come on, I'm late for lunch. I'm hungry.
Well, we know like Omni-Man went through portals into other planets and doesn't really get it doesn't to him as a Viltrumite who's gone to like, he's like, oh, whatever. one
It's
person running
one
away.
human. What's the problem? Yeah, we'll deal with it later.
Little does he know.
Yeah. And that's then when we get to cut back to our universe.
Yes.
And we get to see Mark as we remember him.
Yep.
He kind of just, he clearly feels bad. He's clearly very upset and he's just flying around, kind of doing like the
Secretly.
friendly neighborhood Spider Man kind of thing.
Yes. Like secretly,
Just
like helping people in such a way that he's so quick, they're like, what just happened? And he's already gone.
yeah. And then we get a bit more of an insight into his psyche when we see like actual villains doing something and he
Mm-hmm.
starts to get angry. He gets a little bit of a flashback to what happened in Chicago.
Mm.
And he's like, no, I'll let the professionals handle that. I'm the problem. I caused all them people to die, so I shouldn't get involved in that. I should just do little things to help.
Yes.
Um then I mean most of the episode is centered around this kind of idea of Mark doesn't really, he hasn't coped. He doesn't know how
Yeah.
to cope, which
He
is fair.
yeah. He doesn't know, like, he's feels guilt for the damage and the people that got killed. He also is like somewhat fearful that like he knows his dad just flew away. And it's like, what if he comes back? Probably also knowing I'm not in a position to even stop him if he comes back.
Yeah, I'm lucky he didn't kill me the last time.
Yeah. And then also just like dealing with the fact that he's expected to get on with his life.
Yeah.
Like nothing's happened.
It is interesting though how he kind of realizes pretty quickly that he needs to get back out there and helping people.
Hmm.
To the point where he's like begging Cecil, he's like, just give me a
Yeah,
job.
get me
I
back out
need to
there.
get back out there and prove to myself that I am not my dad.
To which
And
he's
it's
like,
interesting.
you need
I
time.
thought Cecil was going to be more of an antagonist, whereas Cecil actually came across it in a very caring way towards Mark, where he was like, Mark, I do actually trust you, but you don't trust yourself right now, and I can't risk that going wrong in the field.
I think
Whereas I thought he was going to be more like, no, your dad pulled the wool over all our eyes and he was a massive prick. I'm not trusting you.
see, yeah, I think I was expecting him to be maybe a bit more brutal and like, well, now we know what you and your dad are, like there's levels you're gonna have to get through before like that trust is there again. But I think it's a mix of he does actually care because he sees that probably from the fact that Omni Man tricked him, he understands like he also tricked Mark. Like he is feeling the same thing about this, but like what's gone down in a way. But also a little there is some untrust there in the sense of he's just witnessed what happens if a Viltrumite goes rogue, essentially. And he's like, you know what? No, I'm not playing along. Mark could do that.
Yeah, he absolutely could.
And I think there's that slight level of like, not necessarily untrust that Mark would, but like untrust if Mark can control himself enough
And
or
I
have
think
like
that's
a
where it
mental
actually comes
break.
from. I don't think he's like, I think Mark would do it. Because I think
Mm,
Cecil is smart enough to go, if him and his dad were the same, the
he,
two of them would have just
yeah,
decimated the
he
world.
would have joined him straight away.
But if he's not stable,
Mm,
we don't need that going wrong at the wrong time.
yeah, or like
Um,
him, like we've seen in many superhero things like where someone's so emotional they don't know when to stop, sort of thing.
yes, exactly.
That issue.
Um, and then we see the new Guardians of the Globe being shit at their job and really
Yeah.
struggling. We see Robot now in his new body and actually in the action, really like struggling emotionally with it. He's not thinking clearly. He's making poor decisions. He's getting scared.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like Monster Girl said, before for you it was like a video game. Now you're actually here. You'll get
Mm-hmm.
used to it. And there's definitely some very interesting storylines being set up.
Yes, there is.
The episode obviously ends with Mark getting accepted into college with
Yes.
his girlfriend. After he returns from a battle with the Mauler twins.
Yeah, so he ends up like there's a bit of a so obviously multiverse guy goes and gets the Mauler twins out.
Yes.
Something to note, I picked up on with his portals, and they obviously also mention it. Like, you can obviously not portal in the same universe.
Oh yeah, they set his character's rules up
Yeah.
very quickly.
You can only do the position of the portal has to mirror
Yeah.
exactly. Um, which is like why he found a world with a huge crater, so he could go down to the bottom and actually put a portal where it needs to be. Got the twins out, has this idea to like, I will just gather all the brains of me and shove them in my head.
Yeah, and it's a philanthropic endeavor because his plan is all these people have the knowledge of their worlds.
Hmm.
I get all that knowledge. I know what world has the cure for cancer, what
Hmm.
world worked out the best form of democracy and the best form of currency and the best form of making sure everyone can eat. And I get the best bits from every world and I
Yep.
create a utopia. And then once we've created that utopia, we spread it to
Hmm.
every other world.
Yes.
Does that sound familiar to you? It's what the Viltrumites are doing.
Yep. Yep.
Granted, in a very different way, and it's like a polar opposite way. He's doing it through gathering knowledge and being a pacifist, whereas the
Oh,
Viltrumites do it by the strong survive. We'll make
yes.
sure only the strongest of us survive, and
Yep.
then that will create a utopia, and we will force that utopia on everyone else. But they
Yeah.
are the exact same idea. It's two sides of the same coin.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I thought it was very funny though, because it's like, obviously he's setting up this idea, like, I want to gather people, like, I can go round and I can collect all this information. And the twins are like, oh, that's cool. So, and then he just he's like, look, and he opens the door and there's just many of him already. And you're like,
Many men.
oh shit, he's already like gathered several versions of himself. And yeah, their plan is they build him once again, the twins are building someone else a machine.
I really enjoy the Mauler twins' reaction to this information, though. They're like, "Why don't you just talk to them?
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't you just ask them questions? Why
Why
are
are
you
you
doing this in such an unnecessary and complicated way?"
yeah, why are you putting your own life at risk? Just
Um,
learn.
yeah, I enjoy the Mauler twins as an antagonist because they're a good like secondary antagonist because they are physically dangerous, but they're also very intelligent. I love the
Yeah.
constant jokes of when one of them's a bit ditzy, the other one's just like, and that's why you're the clone.
Yeah. But yeah, that's obviously then all that's going on. And we learn through that that actually Mark being good is a rare occurrence.
Yes.
And this is one of the rare universes where he didn't team up with Omni Man, thinking, oh, that makes it less likely shit will go wrong here. We can do it here. Um, Obviously, then building a giant machine like that draws attention. Mark is asked, all right, here's your chance.
Well, yeah,
Tag you
Mark
in.
turns up and he's like, I will do whatever you want. I won't even think for myself. You tell me what I need to do. I just need to help. I need to feel useful.
Hmm.
And Cecil doesn't want to, but then the situation gets worse and the Guardians haven't responded yet. So he's like, fuck it, you're up, kid.
Yeah, you're up. Go in there and deal with this. And then he's like, okay, loads of people, Mauler twins. Mauler twins have been bad. These people must be trapped here against their will.
Yes.
Fight Mauler twins.
And like
uh,
the main time hopper, space hopper,
mm,
universe hopper. It's kind of like, no, Invincible, wait, listen. They're helping me. This is gonna be good. Promise, just sit
yeah.
still.
But obviously wants to prove himself and do, like Cecil's called on him, so he's got to do. But then we get like a bunch of Mauler twins in different situations, like half robot, some look mutated. There was a
Yeah.
female one,
Yeah.
and they all just start fighting him. Like
Yes,
he's severely
absolutely
outnumbered.
wailing on him.
Yes.
Um, the interesting thing is though he's still trying to hold on to this pacifist ideal, Mister Multiverse Man,
Yes, he
and
is.
that's where the problem actually comes from. Because Invincible is very good at setting up their rules. So they
Hmm.
say well before this becomes a problem. Once you start, you can't stop. That's what
Yes.
makes it dangerous. You
Yep.
sit there, it'll be uncomfortable. You'll probably be fine as long as you don't try and stop it.
Yep.
And because all of your memories are going to be so similar, just focus on your memory so you know which ones are actually yours.
Yep.
Cool. Um, but then what happens, of course, he brings in all these Mauler twins. They want to kill the hero because they are villains.
Yep.
he doesn't want to see a hero die because he still thinks he's a pacifist,
Yep.
and he makes the fatal mistake of taking off the helmet.
Yep.
At
Midway
which
through
point, yeah,
things
at
go
which
boom.
point everything go boom.
Yep.
And Mark is again in that situation where he's just watched everyone fucking die around him, and he was helpless to do anything to stop it.
Yes. And then feels like he's just caused all those innocent people to him get killed when in fact they were maybe a little bit bad to be doing that.
Yeah. Well, he viewed the people on the machine as innocent because he was like, "Oh, they're probably trapped here."
Yeah.
And
Not
Cecil's
knowing
of
that.
the opinion
Yeah.
that everyone there has done this on themselves. This is a win today. It might not feel
Yeah.
like it, but this isn't a bad result. You've done okay. We also get baited once again with the Invincible at this point
Yes, we do.
because Rex is like, "Holy shit, maybe he actually is invincible."
Yeah, this is like
Which
the
I really
third
enjoyed.
time, and I think this was the point where I'm like, oh, they're just going to do the opposite this season, where
Yeah.
they just never title card it.
It was one of them things in the first season that people were really enjoying it as like it's quite a unique thing to do.
Yeah,
So the baiting it every time in episode 1 was genius.
it'll be interesting to see if it goes back to normal or if they
Yeah,
keep
I
doing it this
imagine
way.
it will. So then we've cracked on. He's gone back home, beaten up face. He chats with his mum about life. He finds out he's going to university. He goes to take the rubbish out again. Parallel to episode 1 when he found out about his powers. At
Yes.
his job, he was taking rubbish out and accidentally threw it into space.
Yeah.
And he once again, while taking the rubbish out, gets a massive bit of information. And Mortis does not trust him.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to keep a very close eye on you.
Yeah.
Which again is a parallel to the parallel universe.
Yeah, and something that we missed mentioning, like, yeah, Mortis got brought in with a couple other heroes to take over
the Guardians of the
Galaxy.
Yeah, Bulletproof, who I have heard apparently is a very exciting character, even though I don't know that much about them. And Immortus have been brought in to fix the Guardians of the Globe.
Yes. But yeah, and then we get the reveal at the end. One of the Mortis twins survived.
One of the Waller twins did survive,
Yeah.
Absolutely obliterated half his body. We find out Multiverse Man survived as well, and his brain is kind of everywhere.
Massive.
But because he couldn't focus on his memories, he's got like big brain confusion.
Yeah, and he's focused on must destroy Mark.
Yeah, because so many of his memories are now Mark killing everyone he knows.
Yes.
And that's when we finally get the title card.
Yes, it is, right at the end.
I'm going to do whatever it takes to destroy, and then it cuts to Invincible. And it's interesting. So, in season 1, every title card had a bit more of a blood splatter on it.
Yes.
Yeah? Which ended up foreshadowing Mark getting the ever-loving shit beat out of him by his father.
Yep.
Now,
okay,
this one started with it going from the blood splatter style into a red and black one with a crack in it, which showed a bit of blue.
Okay.
Yeah? I believe that is teasing Mark's alternate color suit I told you about.
Oh.
Yeah? So I know,
Yeah.
I've told you about comic book Twitter always enjoying the debates, like this version of this character versus this version of this character. I think that might be foreshadowing that suit.
Okay, that'd be pretty cool.
One more thing I will say. After this episode, the things Mark is struggling with and the start of the episode being a parallel universe, we are getting that Spider-Man crossover. 100%.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Like what I said to you of Mark's going to need an interaction with Spider-Man to like realize what it takes to be a hero and like get over his issues. They've set it up perfectly in the first episode. The notion that it all gets a little bit worse and Mark feels more like he's drowning underwater, and then while fighting the multiverse man who's clearly angry at him, he gets stranded in the Marvel universe, and Spider-Man's just like, with great power comes great responsibility, and Mark's like, well, that's dumb, of course then it does. I'm here for it.
Do you know what?
Happen.
Obviously, like, I've just thought of something else. Now we know it's multiverse stuff and there's like different versions. Obviously, the Spider-Man thing would be very cool. What if something we've now seen as a little trend is Lego versions in multiverse things?
Lego Invincible.
Imagine we get like a thing he ends up in a Lego world for like just a brief moment,
I'd be down. I would.
Just
Um,
to kind of play into the whole multiverse always has a Lego version.
yeah. And of course, we didn't get any answers towards the question of where's Omni-Man gone. So it'll be
No,
interesting to see how that goes.
no Omni-Man, nothing on Adam the alien,
No,
nothing on, and also we don't know like where this is now going with multiverse guy.
yeah.
Like,
He's dipped into into another universe, as we know, based on the rules that were established about his powers.
mm-hmm,
And he's determined to destroy Invincible.
yeah.
Is he
So
going to go from universe to universe attacking Invincible? And after he gets a bit of experience defeating Invincibles, he's going to arrive back in our universe?
maybe, or is it like he's gonna go to universes to try and beat him, learn something, has to dip out, but like each time he's learning actually how to defeat
Yeah.
him, and then it's our mark that he chooses to try and beat because Omni Man's not there, and he's like, wait, that's the one time that I'd be able to beat him, is there's no Omni Man interfering, possibly.
It's going to be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
That is for sure. And I cannot wait for the rest of the series. I already don't want it to end.
It's gonna be good. It is gonna be good.
Should we get into some nerdy news?
Yes.
We still got some stuff to discuss.
We've still got a lot to discuss. This is a hefty week.
It is. We got an Echo trailer.
We did.
Less than 24 hours after we recorded, and that Variety article that basically said MCU is in shambles.
Yeah, it's collapsing.
We got one of the most hype Marvel trailers I've seen in a while.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. It like we messaged each other and it's like up and down. I saw a meme and it was just like Marvel's at a peak, Marvel's done for. Oh, Marvel's definitely done for this time. And it's like, oh no, we're back again.
Yeah. I sent you that trailer. I was like, are we already back?
Yeah.
Are we back like we never actually left? We won't talk about the trailer too much, but what I will say is the main takeaway from the trailer for me
Mm-hmm.
is the scene of a young Maya getting harassed by someone for being deaf
Mm-hmm.
and Kingpin wailing on him was awesome. And I also never thought I would see a Marvel trailer where someone gets shot point blank in the head.
Yeah. They're under the chin, just like, I mean, it's gonna be isn't this the first Disney R-rated show? Like the first one on Disney Plus that's gonna be R-rated.
First original Disney Plus. I believe so.
So it's like
definitely the first Marvel R-rated project.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've had any other Disney Plus shows that have been R-rated. I don't know like about Dope Sick and stuff that.
But for Marvel at least. So
for Marvel, 100%.
I mean, they're showing they're not gonna pull back the punches in any way, like from that trailer.
You know what this does tell me?
Go on.
They realise that Moon Knight would have been better received if they didn't pull their punches. And now they're like, fuck it. We're in shambles.
That is the one sad thing. Seeing that trailer does make you realize, like, Moon Knight would have been so good if we'd got like just full unleashed R-rated madness. But one thing I do actually really like what they did with the trailer. There is a flash of Daredevil in red suit. This is the Echo trailer. They don't have this like big, like in the trailer, like showing off Daredevil and trying to make it like Daredevil. Like the issue I think we had a little bit with She-Hulk is Daredevil became too much of the focus.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh my God, Daredevil's back. She-Hulk's just like making it a weird, like they're not trying to lean on Daredevil. They're making sure like that this is Echo's show.
Kingpin and Echo are characters tied to Daredevil, so it makes sense for Daredevil to be here, but this show is all about Echo's story. Yeah. And like we've been told that this story isn't a hero story. Echo is a villain in this story. She's out to get Kingpin. And it'll be very interesting. Very interesting to see how this goes. And it is also going to be the first Marvel project under the new Marvel banner, Marvel Spotlight.
Yes.
Now, there are some goods with this, and I think we have some serious concerns that I'm not seeing anyone talk about with this.
Okay.
Yeah? So,
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Spotlight has been described as the street level stories in the MCU
Mm-hmm.
that might not necessarily have a big impact on the overall MCU continuity and story.
Yes.
Now, at its center, that sounds phenomenal.
Mm.
It does. There is a big problem that I think people are too excited by the concept of it that they're missing.
Okay.
And what's going to happen is this is being billed as a you don't have to watch it. That's what they're billing it as.
Mm-hmm.
This is the extra stuff for you guys who always want more. And
Mm-hmm.
if you just like going to the cinema to watch the films, don't worry about Marvel Spotlight. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is they're starting off with Kingpin, Daredevil, and Echo.
Yeah.
If we want a Daredevil film or Daredevil to co-star in a film alongside a Spider-Man against Kingpin, which is what a lot of people want. A lot of people want Spider-Man 4 to be a Spider-Man and Daredevil team-up film against Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens in this story is going to affect the way the characters behave. And you're going to have people going, why are they behaving like that? We don't know. And then you're going to have people like me and you going, well, watch Echo and you'll understand. And they're going to go, but Echo was Marvel Spotlight. We were told we don't need to watch that.
Yeah. I do think, because I also did think that it's like they're saying you don't. This is stuff that you don't need to worry about watching for the main story, and I'm like, but for stars to know who Echo is, like if someone hasn't watched anything, they're gonna be like, so why does Echo hate Kingpin right now? Because that all happened in Hawkeye. Like her, because Kingpin and didn't it? She showed up at a
Yeah, she
mess.
shot Kingpin.
Yeah. So like in that theory, it's like, but then you don't get that context because you won't have watched anything else. And then also Daredevil, Kingpin, like you say, if we want Spider-Man to get involved, or it's like if those characters, there is
What
a weird.
when they're billing it as like a street level stories, in reality, Spider-Man film should exist under Marvel Spotlight then. Because the good Spider-Man film should be street level.
Yeah,
And then
it's
what happens if, say Echo, yeah, this show,
mm,
just because we don't know what else is going to be under Marvel Spotlight, we say Echo ends up being a masterpiece.
mm-hmm,
And it's so good that like us super nerds refer it to our friends who are more casual, and they watch it and they love it.
mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, we've got to cash in on Echo. We need to do an Echo film. Well, they're then screwed, aren't they?
Yeah,
What
I somehow
happens if they
think
try a character under Marvel Spotlight and that character ends up going nuclear in popularity? And they're like, oh, well, we need to do a big budget film on this character. And then everyone's like, oh, I don't watch Marvel Spotlight. I just watch the main films now because I've been told that's all I need to watch. And they're like, well, who's this fucker?
I wouldn't be surprised if the branding gets dropped eventually.
I'm just really I like the concept. I don't want to sound like I'm shitting all over it,
No,
but
it
there are
has
definitely some
some.
concerns.
I
I feel
think
like you could accidentally put a character in a box of you can only ever be a TV character.
yeah,
Unless Marvel Spotlight is also going to be for some films. And like the only MCU mainstream films are going to be stuff like
to do with Kang and all
Avengers
that. Yeah,
and team up films.
but I
But
think
then again, you're going to still run into that issue potentially.
yeah, I think the problem they've got is they've started this off with a character that's already kind of like tied into so many different things.
Yeah.
If this had been Moon Knight, I'd have been like, okay, this is a character that is not even tied to anyone else yet. Fresh story. Yeah, you don't need to know anything before Moon Knight. You could have watched this, and that's under Marvel Spotlight. And whether they choose to then use him in a bigger film or not is like fine. Echo's a bit of a weird one because she's already been tied in with Hawkeye, Daredevil, which then ties her into She-Hulk because all these characters are all linking up. We know we want Spider-Man and Daredevil, and it's just like it's a bit of a weird one to start with that's kind of could get very messy.
Well, this is the problem you get. Like, so, like when you're reading a comic, for instance. You pick up Amazing Spider-Man's latest issue, yeah? Or Miles Morales' latest issue. Blade is in it. It's fucking awesome. So you're there, you're flicking through, and you're like, oh, cool, that's Blade. You might know who Blade is.
Mm-hmm.
And Blade is currently on a mission
Yeah.
that he asked Spider-Man to help him with. This is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes, and Blade starts talking about what his mission is. And it's like, for more information, read this issue. And it's the Blade issue that's being referenced, yeah?
Yeah.
That's led into this interaction with Spider-Man.
Yep.
They can't do that with films. Yeah? You pay your £10 for a cinema ticket and your £10 for your popcorn and drink, and you sat there and you sit down to watch the new Daredevil Spider-Man take on Kingpin film. And then Echo pops into screen and you get a scratch record freeze frame, and it's like, for context on this, watch Echo on Disney Plus.
Do you know what would be
doesn't
funny?
work.
If it's like Echo comes in and it's like previously on Echo, and then it cuts back and it just like flicks through. Oh, you've got this cracking freeze frame of your camera, by the way. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm guessing technical issues. Oh, he's back.
I can hear you now. I
like,
heard the best thing is if Echo comes in and says,
oh, and it's like previously on Echo,
yeah,
and it does like the usual recap it does of at the start of the episode, and then it goes back to the film. Yeah, it'd be stupid.
There are some things that work in comics that don't work in film. Just like in comics, no one ever stays dead apart from Uncle Ben and Batman's parents.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That isn't the same. Like the idea that we were talking about last week of bringing back the Avengers, we know that ruins all of the emotional power of Endgame, so don't do it. But in comics, you accept that person will come back eventually.
Yeah.
So I think they're like, okay, the comics are successful because they're comics. We need to do what they do, and they're not thinking about how that stuff translates.
Yeah, I think the concept is fine. I think it's a good idea to try and separate and help the casual fans understand what to watch and what not to watch. I just think they chose the wrong thing to start it with.
100%. And I'm curious to see how they continue it on
Yeah,
to get the most
see where
out
it
of
gets used, yeah.
Yes. Next up, this might be the second piece of good news about Blade ever. The first piece being Mahershala Ali was cast as Blade. So the director... Go on.
Oh, yeah, go on. I was going to say, a week ago, this film was close to being a write-off, fully.
Yeah. The current director, we're hoping he manages to see it out. Jan Demange has confirmed that Blade will be R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot more confidence in a statement like this when we know Echo is R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing they said about Deadpool 3 was, we're not going to fuck with the Deadpool films. It will still be R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Deadpool, I could see, because that's been proven to make money at an R rating. Disney would be like, yeah, we'll leave that. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't necessarily mean they were going to greenlight their own R-rated projects, especially once Moon Knight wasn't as brutal as it should have been.
Yeah.
Echo clearly being R-rated and a promise of Blade being R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
Blade is the kind of thing that could definitely exist under Marvel Spotlight.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be our first answer as to whether movies will be under Marvel Spotlight. But definitely very interesting, and hopefully Blade can save itself.
Fills me with confidence because Jan Demange is also the writer for the Blade film is the same one that worked on Logan.
Yes,
so
which was the R-rated superhero film.
Yeah, so it's like it's in good hands for they know what they're going to do, and they know like when a character or like a film should be R-rated. And then I think even Michelle Ali has come out and said, this being R-rated is going to allow us to do like a more gruesome side of Blade that I think he deserves to show. And it's like, okay, he seems very much more on board again after he was almost walking out. This could be positive.
Yeah, 100%.
And if it turns out a great film, I'll be blown away, honestly, after what it's come through.
I have a lot of love for Blade as a character, and I would really, really, really like to see it get the love it deserves. and be what it can be. Right, now, this news is a piece of news I've been waiting to be able to say for 118 days.
Yeah.
SAG-AFTRA have finally been offered and accepted a fair deal, thus ending the SAG-AFTRA strikes and allowing productions to restart. We won, ladies and gentlemen.
We did.
It
Well,
only took the fourth this is our final offer. And even then there was a little bit more negotiations.
well, it eventually got like explained that the reason it's taken so long is the studios have actually had no gripe with any. It's not really been the other things in the contract. The one thing they've kept trying to hold on to is this want to be able to freely scan and use people with AI and
Forever.
like, yeah, and it's just like hoping that they'd wear them down enough that they would maybe give in to that. But SAG-AFTRA was like, yeah, no, we're going to call your bluff.
Yeah.
And they've kept holding on to the point where they finally gave in.
And what I will say is, to give SAG-AFTRA their credit to show that they do care about everyone, like in that industry, is the last point that was being fought over was already deceased actors who they had scans for. They were like, we've already got their scans and they're dead now. We can't get their consent now, so we should be able to use them as we want. And they're like, only if their estate consents
Yes.
and if their estate gets paid under the rules you've negotiated for living actors.
Yes.
They're like, you are not going to start using dead actors whose likenesses you've got without getting permission from their estate and without paying their estate what you'd have to pay them. Not a chance.
Do you know what I kind of hope? I hope some of the estates of certain Star Wars actors and actresses that are no longer with us say no.
Yeah, 100%.
And we move away from digital doubles.
Yeah. Get real actors in jobs again, please.
But yeah, across the board, great for everyone.
And because productions can now restart, productions are expected to start, like, these are projects that are seen as priority projects to get restarted for studios. Deadpool 3, Venom 3, voice work for Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, the Spider-Verse. And I've read actually since writing this as well that apparently the Penguin series is a priority for HBO.
I can imagine it is.
So us nerds are in a good spot. 4 of the projects we care about are getting rammed to the top of the production schedule.
And I do believe that like they finally gave in on trying to hold on to these points like AI and stuff that the studios were trying to hold on to, because they were now, it got to a point, we talked a couple of weeks ago, that the boards of like Netflix were putting pressure on this. Like it was starting to get pressure from more places than just SAG-AFTRA. Like other like people involved on the studio sides, like boards and stuff, were putting the pressure on. And I think that was the final push that it needed.
They were starting to hurt people's bottom lines enough that they were like, just give them what they want. It can't hurt this much.
Yeah.
And the 3-year minimum deal is worth about $1 billion to the Actors Union, which I like the actors.
I'm not sure if that's actually ended up being more than what was originally wanted.
So what I will say is I know for a fact the base pay, which they wanted like a 4% pay rise on, are guaranteed to go up 3% for the next 3 years. They ended up getting more than that.
Okay.
Because I think what was happening was, and this is pure speculation, I think what probably happened was they were offering over the odds there
to try and keep the AI
to try and reduce the AI stuff. And then they gave them a bit of that back, but they were still above what they were asking for, and then got the AI stuff anyway.
Yeah. I imagine like the studios were trying to sweeten the deal in all the other places. Then they were like, oh, okay, let's take a little bit off that. And then at the end, they've gone, right, we'll get rid of the AI thing. And SAG-AFTRA's gone, okay, we'll take that deal. You left all the other stuff in as well. Jobs are good. And I mean, it's great. It's great for everyone.
We love to see it.
We do.
More good news about nerd stuff. Now that Hori's fully locked into the Boys universe with me, the first posters for the Boys season 4 have started coming out.
They have.
So the poster is Homelander at some kind of a party celebration thing with like his arms out, looking all victorious and glorious.
In before it's him
And then you
becoming
have
president.
and then you have Butcher clearly at the party after all of the confetti's on the floor, looking at the ground as if he's investigating something.
Mm.
It's a cold as fuck poster. Both of them
Oh,
are
both
actually.
of them
They're
are
really
great.
cool.
Yeah,
Um,
showing the
and
two sides of what is going to be the boys.
yeah, and Eric Kripke, the showrunner, head runner,
Mm.
very important person to the boys' production, has confirmed that season 4 of the boys has finished editing.
Mm-hmm.
It is halfway through VFX. Sound and music is about a quarter of the way done. And now that the strikes are over, the actors can return to record additional dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know the boys used much of the recording additional dialogue, which goes back to what we were talking about. When it's done well, you don't notice it, and when it's done poorly, it is so noticeable.
I imagine there's some situations where, like, Visible Man and like when there's VFX involved in, and they might have to like use a digital double and then obviously re-record to time it up properly. There's probably situations like that, and yeah, we've never noticed. So obviously, do a good job.
What I will say, as much as I despise Amazon as a mega corporation,
They're not. They're kind of
they are
hitting.
they're doing a good job of letting creative people be creative on their video streaming platform. Talking of a video streaming platform and horrific mega corporations, last week we said that Disney were buying out
Yeah, they were
Comcast's
preparing
share
it.
of Hulu for like $9 billion. That has now been confirmed that Disney Plus and Hulu will be merging into one app, and this is expected to take place in March 2024. So no doubt they're going to find a way to increase the subscription price of Disney Plus by a pretty substantial amount. Because they're like, look at all this Hulu stuff you don't want that you're now getting.
Yeah.
So be ready for that. Now, this news isn't the kind of news that would normally make it into the Nerd News Network.
It's not, but
However, this is generational news. To put this news in perspective, Hori was a young man the last time. I have been with Jenna for 9 years, 10 years in like 6 months' time, 7 months' time, somewhere around that. We're in the process of buying a house together, a home. And the last time this happened, I didn't even know she existed.
It's wild.
We have finally been told that GTA 6 is coming.
We
are expecting a trailer to drop at the beginning of December.
It's wild because it's like I saw GTA 6 once again trending on Twitter, and I was like, what's the rumor this time?
I just took it as that, it's another one of these 6 monthly, it's getting released soon tweets that never turns into anything.
And then I look on my timeline and I see someone had quote tweeted Rockstar, and I was like, wait, go on it. And they like, it was like an hour ago, and they're just like, oh, this is the 25th anniversary or something of Rockstar Games or whatever. Oh, it was more, I don't know, but
no, 25th anniversary.
Yeah, and then it's like a thread, and then it goes, oh, there is going to be a trailer for the next Grand Theft Auto early December, and it's like, oh shit, the official account's tweeted, it's happening, it's finally here.
Everyone stay calm, it's happening. I was the living embodiment of the Michael Scott gift from The Office. It's like, everyone stay calm.
Everyone's like, it's happening, December, it's coming, it's here, it's finally here. It's not a drill. This is not a drill anymore.
So, what I am going to ask you, when do you think it'll be released? Based on, so I have a couple of thoughts about this. So, based on the gaming industry as a whole, normally we get a trailer and then have to wait like 18 months to 2 years. I don't think Rockstar are dumb enough to do that. Purely because people have already waited so long, and they were waiting semi-patiently. Once you show a trailer, people are going to bombard them constantly with for more updates. Whereas when they were like acting like it wasn't really happening, people left them alone.
Yeah.
Which makes me more confident that we could be looking at 6 months to a year.
Yes.
I'm thinking like September next year to come in and steal everyone's money away from COD and FIFA.
So my initial thought is GTA is the sort of game that they would either release with a new gen console, but I
Mhm.
don't think we've heard anything about a new gen coming yet.
I mean, they've just done the mid-gen refresh for
Yeah,
PlayStation 5.
so or it's holiday. And with the trailer coming out in December, if they were like, "Oh yeah, it's out next week," that would be a
No, imagine the trailer goes live, and then at the end of the trailer, it just goes available to buy now.
yeah, that would be wild. But I don't see
Just
them doing that.
zero, just zero marketing. They're just like, we know, we believe in our source.
They could probably do that and it would work.
They could get away with it,
But I
100%.
wouldn't be surprised if it's holiday 2024 with the idea of Christmas, holiday sales, everyone like that period.
As a general rule, with games that want to make loads of money around the holidays, they'll release it end of September, beginning of October, because idiots like me and you will buy it straight away because we're not missing out on this.
Mm,
And then they can get even more money for it then before it goes into the Christmas season, where parents will buy it for their kids.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like October because there's like pretty much every country has like a couple of weeks in October, whether it's Thanksgiving or October half term in the UK. Like there's that period where they know kids have time off,
Hmm.
good time, and then like you say, a couple months later it's Christmas. Parents will buy it for the kids that are younger or have to do chore. Like, oh, yeah.
I am so unbelievably beyond ready.
Question:
Hmm.
GTA 5 did not release on PC straight away. Do you think?
I have all the consoles. I don't give a fuck.
No, I
I'm
know.
playing it day one.
I waited a year to play GTA 5 and got it on PC. I remember staying up, playing it through the night and all nighter and going to work the next day. Do you think they are dumb enough to not launch on PC?
I don't think so.
I don't either. But also, do you think this will be a complete game? Or with the current trend of how games release, do you think it's going to be a broken mess?
They've had at least 11 years, potentially 12 or 13 by the time the game actually comes out. If it is not a full game, I will have lost all faith in game development. Rockstar are the only people I trust anymore to release a full game. Yeah, this is a company I didn't even know existed six
I know, I
months
know,
ago.
I know. But
So
no,
like, it's
that's what I
as
mean.
like a AAA dev, they're the only people I trust anymore.
I have to. I agree. If Rockstar doesn't launch this perfectly,
Gaming's dumb,
we're in dark days of gaming
100%.
because, like,
They have not released anything since 2018 with Red Dead Redemption.
if they succumb to the current trend of release a sort of broken game, we'll patch it with DLC and patches like in the next month. Like, if they succumb to that standard, it's such a
So,
sad time.
do you know what the problem is? There is a trend on Twitter right now of deliberately trying to bug out and break games.
Hmm.
When GTA 5 launched, it did have bugs. Don't get me wrong,
Well,
it
yeah.
wasn't bad, but as every AAA game of that size does, there will be bugs. And the problem you'll have is you'll have these clout chasers on Twitter
Well, yeah.
going out of their way to make these big, horrible bugs that no normal person would accidentally do.
Hmm.
And then it will get posted with 100 million impressions going GTA 6 broken mess, blah 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 blah, and it can create this narrative that the game is a
Well,
broken
yeah.
mess when actually, are you ready for my hot take?
Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
Spider-Man 2 had more game-breaking bugs at launch than Starfield.
I haven't played either, so I can't really.
I have over 100 hours in Starfield now. I've experienced one breaking bug that within 30 seconds of Googling, I fixed very easily. Spider-Man 2, I had to reload saves a couple dozen times because an objective didn't update and I physically couldn't progress the mission.
Question though, which felt more immersive of a world with like actual stuff going on?
Starfield,
Really?
100%.
From what
Okay,
everything I saw
here's the
Spider-Man's
thing.
world seemed more interesting.
You didn't say more interesting, you said more immersive.
Well, immersive and like full and actually like
Okay.
alive.
Spider-Man 2 is a cinema game. You
Yeah.
spend as much time watching really beautifully put together choreographed cutscenes as you do playing the game. Starfield is just you. Spider-Man is not the game I lose 8 hours playing. Starfield is. Because I'm sucked in. I'm doing my thing. No one's accidentally jump scaring me while I'm sat here playing Spider-Man. Because I'm not that locked in. Playing Starfield, I got jump scared like 7 times because I was so locked in I forgot the real world existed.
Fair.
And this is the problem. I think there are going to be haters or people who want clout who are going to go out of their way to cause a bug and then act like it's a huge bug that's really prevalent and a huge problem.
I think.
And they're going to tell people how to do the bug. And then people can be like, oh, I want to see if I can do it. And they're going to be like, oh my God, what a mess. It's like, my brother in Christ. You flew a specific jet to a specific corner of the map and did a specific trip using a specific gun to get this glitch to happen.
I think the big thing will be if they have the things we've come accustomed to in GTA 5, they need to have at launch, like the ability to do private matches and custom lobbies. And there needs, I hope, because knowing that they've talked to the No Pixel and RP community, hopefully there's like, those people are going to hit the ground. Hopefully they're kind of got them on NDAs and they're setting them up early, so they can launch with it.
I'll be honest, I actually hope they do what they did with GTA 5 and go, although they announced it before they even launch, and they're like, online is ready. We are not releasing it for a month because we want everyone to play the full game first.
Yeah.
Because that was their reason why GTA 5 Online wasn't there on launch. They were like, we want everyone to play the actual game first. And then they delayed online because it wasn't actually ready as well. I want them to be like, you've all got 30 days to play the game and get as far through that as you can, and then online can come.
Oh yeah, if they say this is the day it's coming out and it does, cool. It's just it's going to be interesting to see.
Everything needs to be ready to go at launch.
Yeah.
But me and you are also more patient people who are like, yes, I want it. Release it when it's ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, Content Championship.
Yes.
Netflix's Punisher show versus Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
We just like making our lives painful, don't we?
This round has been more of my personal hell than yours.
Oh yeah.
The next round is your personal hell. Like round 3.
Oh, sorry. I'm sick next week. I'm going to sub Luke in.
No, it's not even next week. It's the next entire round of the bracket. The quarterfinal of the
It was a good run, boys and girls. Josh is the new co-host.
As always, we have 6 categories. We've got personal relevance, how well has it aged, rewatchability, story, acting, and cinematography / general visual appeal.
Yes.
These will help us decide what the better piece of content in our unmistakable opinion is. Because we are perfect.
The only important opinions.
Yes, 100%. Starting off with personal relevance and The Punisher. I have written. Netflix TV shows were goated at a time when we had little to no other superhero TV shows that weren't just the bog standard villain of the week model. They revolutionized the genre. They moved us away from the 24 episodes. Every other episode has a little bit of main story. And they moved us to the style that we get now on Disney Plus and everywhere that does this kind of content. It's like, this is the story. it's going to take us 8 episodes to tell this story. Each episode will have a B story that adds a little bit of filler.
And it
Um,
also brought the. It was at the time when the MCU was just sort of getting going and we were getting used to crossover heroes. And it's like, we got that mixed with the new Netflix style of superhero show.
it was already new and exciting.
Yeah, it was like best of both. Meanwhile, CW's like struggling.
But on the flip side, Captain America: Winter Soldier, I make no mistake of it. It is my favorite MCU movie.
You've made that very clear.
Yeah, it is the
It's
creme de la
one of
creme.
the top
It's
ones.
so good. Yeah, it came out at the perfect time when no one was even close to even considering superhero fatigue.
Mm,
But it wasn't mega popular, so that it was impossible to get a ticket on opening night. But the
yeah.
cinema was full, and it was exciting. And I was young enough where there was less scary things in the world, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, superheroes, let's go!" It's pure nostalgia baiting, I'm sure. But every time I rewatch it, it still holds up.
Yeah, I mean, it was at that ramp up of the MCU when
Yeah,
things. It's
it was when
both
them
of these.
bigger sets started to get pulled together.
Yeah, and it's like it's one of those to look back on and you're like, okay, this is when the MCU was ramping up, and it's just both were such great time periods.
100%. Um, how well is it aged?
Both have aged phenomenally.
Phenomenally is literally one of the words I have written down here. John Bernthal is the Punisher.
Yeah,
He's one of them people. The second they announced that like the Netflix stuff wasn't going to be happening anymore, and hopefully they'll bring them characters into the MCU, everyone was like, "You keep Charlie Cox, you keep John Bernthal.
yeah.
They were so good, keep them." Um, but the word I've written down here might be a little bit of an overstatement, but still, for Winter Soldier, I've literally written perfectly. It's a masterpiece. And I don't mean that in the way of like when you compare two different pieces of art, like
Yeah.
impressionist versus realism.
Mm-hmm.
Two can be masterpieces while looking nothing apart.
Well, yeah.
As far as comic book movies go, it is a masterpiece.
Mm.
It is so good. It tells its story. It was starting to understand that there was a lot of superhero films coming out, so it needed to differentiate slightly. So we
Yeah.
got more of an espionage feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good.
Yeah. It's. I mean, that has. I feel over time as like we've got more of the MCU became the same style. Everything felt like we lost a bit of that individualism we were getting from for a period. Has helped it age, and then like you say, Punisher. We all look back on that Netflix era of Daredevil and Punisher. We kind of forget about the other ones a little bit, but like those two have stuck out so strongly that to this day we want them back. Like
100%.
just screams for how good it is.
Rewatchability.
For I could happily rewatch both. I think Winter Soldier is inherently easier to rewatch
100%.
than the
Less of a
whole
time
series.
commitment.
Yeah, and not
Um,
necessarily needing to watch much of the MCU. Some of it, but
yeah,
you wouldn't.
you definitely, if you can't sit down and watch Winter Soldier for the first time ever without watching
No.
anything else. But this is about rewatchability. As people like us who've seen a lot of the MCU, you definitely don't need to watch anything to feel like you've got all the context. The context for this film is built in a little bit everywhere. So
Mm.
as long as you generally understand and remember the MCU's timeline, you'll be fine. You might have a couple of bits where you're like, "Oh yeah, that happened," but that other than that, you'll be fine.
Well, and it's early enough that there hadn't been a whole lot before it.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like you're trying to remember everything up to Endgame for context.
At the time, it felt like there was a lot before it, but
Yeah, but
in the context of post
what
it,
we now know.
yeah. Um, Whereas for Punisher, while I would rewatch it, rewatchability is one of these ones that is very internal to just us. I
Mm.
don't have time to rewatch 8 hours of a TV show that I've seen.
No, and I also feel
I
like
mean,
to fully enjoy Punisher, you also kind of need to watch Daredevil at the same time.
100%. And you've got to remember, like, we're talking about rewatchability here. This week alone, as well as spending time with our partners and our family and doing our job, we had to find 3 hours out of our relaxation time to watch episodes of the show. Yeah, we enjoy the shows. I'm not moaning about having to watch the shows, but it's not like if you miss an episode, we just binge 2 episodes the next time you sit down to watch it. We need to watch it on a time crunch so that we're ready for the episode each week. In a world where that exists and we're not really slowing down, we've got a film that we have to watch this week and 2 episodes of a show. Going back to rewatch 8 hours of a show in my free time is a pretty substantial commitment. When I could spend that 8 hours instead watching something I haven't seen before, or that's been on my list forever,
Yeah.
or that my girlfriend wants to watch. So, because being in a relationship is making decisions together about what you want to watch.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of time there.
It's a big commitment. Whereas if Jenna goes, fancy watching a film, and I suggest Winter Soldier, and she's like, yeah, we can throw it on. I'm like, sweet. It's 2.5 hours. It's not as intense because I know it. I could probably write a decent quality, script from memory for that film. It is by far the MCU film I've rewatched the most, and it's probably, as I've said before, right near the top of all my comic book movies in rewatching. So yeah, it's easier to rewatch film than a TV show most of the time.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Story.
Punisher
This
story
is such a tight one.
Punisher story is strong.
Yeah. Especially because the Punisher is just in the comics, he's a badass. He just turns up, he kills bad guys. But they add a bit more into it. They build the story of Frank's family into this. He was a soldier. He was betrayed by his unit. His family got killed for it. Now he's out there trying to right them wrongs, and he's mentally unstable and unwell. And he does that. He understands he's doing bad, and he's going to go to hell for it. But he doesn't give a fuck because they've done worse, and they have to be punished for it. It is so well put together and told.
Yep.
So good.
Especially for a TV show as well.
The Netflix Marvel shows gave Netflix so much credibility with me as their ability to tell good stories that they squandered on random crap.
Yeah,
they earned so much goodwill that they just threw away on random shit.
They started the early days of Netflix was so strong, and then it just got so diluted.
And now they're doing what all mainstream studios do, and they're making a show that everyone got bored of 4 years ago for the 6th season, even though they promised season 4 was the last season.
Yeah,
Stranger Things.
Hey,
you're part of the problem.
Yeah, I'm okay with
that. And then on the flip side, you got Captain America: Winter Soldier. Yeah. The return of Hydra after we thought they'd been defeated in World War II. The betrayal of Bucky.
Yeah.
The fall of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep. Pivotal points in the MCU.
If we actually deep I know we can't use the entire MCU story, but if we deep how much of a turning point this was, this brought Bucky back to Steve's attention, which meant Steve went to find Bucky, found out that Bucky killed Tony's parents and didn't tell Tony. That directly led to the Avengers falling apart, which led to Thanos winning in the battle for Earth.
Yeah, it's
and it set us up for that while still having a beautifully self-contained story. Because, we said, with very limited knowledge, you can watch Captain America: Winter Soldier. In fact, someone who's not even seen any other Marvel movie can sit down, watch that film with you, and not ask an annoying amount of questions and know what's going on.
Yeah. It's well contained enough, yet still weaves into the bigger story. It was that period where it linked the MCU as a whole, but still stood alone as its own story and film, which we've lost a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Acting.
I mean, John Bernthal is Punisher.
Very, very good. I can't think of all the other actors in it. I know Karen makes a lot of cameos in it.
Yes.
And it's very good. Like we said, As
and
a
Charlie
lot of the
Cox
time
as
with
well.
these discussions, when we talk about how good the story is,
Mm.
the story is always limited by the actors. So if
Yes.
we're sitting here going, "This is a great story," unless it's adapted from a book that we know is a great book,
Mm.
we're like, well, the actors, we
The
don't
acting
feel like
can
the actors
carry
are
it.
dragging it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a superhero story.
Yeah.
If you're not sit there going, it's just superheroes,
And
the story's got to be good enough and the acting's got to boost it.
realistically as well, Punisher is a superhero origin story for the most part. It's just,
Very difficult to do it right.
yeah, it's just told in such a way that it doesn't feel like that. And then with the acting from like John Bernthal and then Charlie Cox showing up and different, like, was phenomenal for a TV show. Winter Soldier, I mean, it's the MCU.
Samuel L. Jackson,
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson,
Mm,
Anthony Mackie,
mm,
Robert motherfucking Redford,
mm.
and none of
Stacked.
them miss.
They did great performances.
All of them, although they have probably been typecast as like MCU big franchise actors now, are
Mm.
legitimately very talented actors in their own right.
Yes, they are.
Like Samuel L. Jackson made his name in like Tarantino films.
Yes.
Sebastian Stan has done a lot of good things off the back of his MCU fame.
Yes.
Chris Evans has got such a wide array of, like, he's done like the silly like comedy films like
Yeah.
Not Another Teen Film, but he's also done like critically acclaimed films like Knives Out.
Yep.
Scarlett Johansson is like, her and Samuel L. Jackson
Mm-hmm.
constantly overtake each other as the highest grossing actors of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Mackie, he's not a gangster, his real name's Clarence. And then Robert Redford is like an OG of the acting industry.
But yeah, no, it's a stacked cast.
Yeah, and they all did just as
They
good a
did
job
great.
as anyone in
Yeah.
Punisher.
Yeah.
Which is the problem. Cinematography. I do think Punisher's probably clear on this one.
Yeah, I feel like the Netflix style of how they shot those shows stands out more than just, yes, Winter Soldier was a different story, but it's still shot as an MCU film. It still had the MCU look.
The Netflix shows are some of the only shows in like the streaming era where a lot of it is shot at dark and I can still see what the fuck's going on.
Yes.
And as I don't know if it's just I get older and my eyes aren't as good that I appreciate it more, or if it's just something that genuinely wasn't a problem growing up, and now it feels like everyone wants that dark scene, and they just refuse to have any light within 6 miles, and you can't see what's happening. I really appreciate the Punisher show's ability to have these dark lit scenes, and you can actually still see clearly what the fuck is happening. And some of the choices of shots in the show are
Yes.
phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Really, really good. But like I said, it's an MCU film. Cinematography is not why you turn up to the cinema to watch the MCU, especially in Phase 2.
Yeah,
In
no, it
Infinity
had.
War and Endgame, they tried some stuff because they were such important films that it was pretty
Yeah,
much like, we need to get a
phase
shot that looks like this.
phase 2, they'd established the MCU look. They just kept it going.
Yeah, exactly that. Right, time to tally up the points.
Yes, it is.
Personal relevance for me is, of course, Winter Soldier.
For me, I would probably lean Punisher.
Okay, Ty, how well it has aged? Winter Soldier.
I would say Punisher.
We tied it again. Rewatchability, I think, is a unanimous Winter Soldier.
Yes, I would say Winter Soldier.
Story, I'm going to give to Punisher.
Yeah, I would also give Punisher. So it's 1-1.
Acting goes to Winter Soldier, because the quality of acting, I think, is comparable, but there are more actors who all have to act at that level.
Yeah, I would lean.
For me,
I could lean Winter Soldier though.
Okay, making it 2-1. Cinematography,
Punisher.
Punisher.
So it's
It is 2-2. I'm going to use my veto to allow my favorite project to get through.
Valid.
I'm not letting Winter Soldier lose out like this.
I'll allow it.
Not when I see fucking Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban's made it through to the next round. Not having it.
Not after Wolverine Origins made it to the second round.
Yeah, like it's not dying on the same battlefield as X-Men Origins Wolverine. I refuse to live in a world where that's the case.
I will allow it because I have so many Star Wars ones that made it through.
Star Wars has just dominated this entire thing. Speaking of Star Wars, next week is Moon Knight versus the Phantom Menace.
I mean, we can
It's not an easy one.
It's not, but I mean, I've already got the answer for you.
See, at least I try and be
hey,
fair and think about it when it matters.
I allowed this week.
Get George Lucas's cock out of your mouth.
Only
make room for Dave Filoni's.
No, you mean James Gunn's, because he's going to be taking the crown soon.
But that is it from us this week. Next week we will also have a mega episode, Cindy Moon character profile, the last of the Spider-Man 2 character profiles.
Okay.
We will have the Loki finale.
Yes.
We will have the Marvels review.
Yes.
We will have Invincible Episode 2.
Yes.
As well as more Nerd News Network.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I said, Moon Knight versus Phantom Menace. Make sure you've liked. Make sure you subscribe so you find yourself back here next week.
Yeah, where everything might have changed for the MCU.
Bye for now.
We'll see you next week.